to the side.
All right, let's stand for the pledge.
I salute allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
In a roll call.
Jenny David. Craig Scott.
Here.
Ron Vaughn.
Here.
Randy Becker.
Here.
Sarah.
Present.
All right, before we go on to public comment, is everybody okay with the,
Let's just hear an update on the time card.
update on time card? Where
process.
we want to put that at?
I don't care.
Probably new each.
Right before each, so. Yeah. We'll put that in H for time card and then,
Move it
either with that or right after that, we can talk about GPS and
Okay,
actually, I think Tom's gonna talk about that up at we'll put that at C5. And then hopefully
oh,
asset management as well. Everybody okay with that?
Yes.
All right.
all right.
We have to. Oh, yeah. Okay.
Yeah,
Good,
Here it
good.
is. Okay.
Aye.
All right, this is the first public comment. Anything that's on the agenda, the public may comment on at this point. Keep your comments to 3 minutes. Is there any public comment in the room? Is there any public comment on Zoom? Okay. First appointment is Megan Powers from the American Red Cross for disaster preparedness. Are you with us, Megan?
I am. I just got my speakers working. For some reason, computer is being silly. So just on time. My name is Megan Powers. I am from the American Red Cross. I cover 14 counties here in northern Michigan, including yours. The reason I wanted to talk to you today is because, you know, obviously we do have disasters here in northern Michigan. I think Gaylord is a perfect example of that. I've been working on that since the day that it occurred. And, you know, the local government and the county commissioners and the township supervisors have been critical to be the ones to get information in for that. But we also want to make sure that all the communities are prepared for the different types of disasters that occur here in northern Michigan. One of the ways is that we support that is we have programs for school-age children, including the Pillowcase Project, the Prepare with Pedro. We also have the Be Red Cross Ready, which is for all age groups. And we also, and probably most critically to all of you, have a program called the Ready Rating, which I'm going to share a real quick. Oh, I can't share my screen with you. Let's see if I can drop this in the.
You can now, Maggie, go ahead.
Okay. I'm going to share the Ready Rating with you. So for those of you who don't know, that a lot of businesses do not reopen after a disaster, but this Ready Rating program is for businesses, organizations, and it can be used for local government. So this is a free program, and what's great about it is it measures your current level of preparedness against other organizations and schools and businesses just like yours, meaning size and kind of community based. So this will help you make an emergency action plan. There's two different versions. There's the Ready Go, which is a short 25 question assessment, and the Ready Advanced, which is 60 questions. All of the scores are 1 out of 100. And it doesn't just give you that score, but we also have a bunch of resources that can help you get to that 100%. So as you can see on the screen, that it contains over 70 actionable items, and it can help create an EAP. There are templates available, and the benefit of having this template is once you save it into the program, even if you had it printed out and then that disaster, the tornado, the fire, the flood happened, you can get to a computer, sign in, and get that emergency action plan and all the steps associated with it printed out. It also exceeds the minimum requirements for emergency action plans set by OSHA. So having all of this will allow not just individuals to recover, but communities recover from a disaster. And I would ask you to kind of either pull those township supervisors together, maybe Chamber of Commerce in your local communities that you're responsible for, and talk to them about this, because having the businesses reopen is critical in making sure that the communities can survive disasters. And I'm sure in some of the smaller towns, you may have grocery stores or things like that that will need your help. I ask that you just bring those people together and have them work on their preparedness. I think that Mike has asked about the shelters in each community, and those are also critical. Tawas has a community center that we used for a point of evacuation for the wildfires. Down in Saginaw, when we had the flood that went from Tawas all the way down to Saginaw, they had points of evacuation for the flood. And those township supervisors in each of those cases were critical in getting those buildings open and making sure that their community was safe during a disaster. So, does anybody have any questions for me?
Well, I guess the first question I would ask is, Mike, are you familiar with this program, and do you think that we could benefit from this at all?
I am familiar with the program. It is the same programs that I develop for the county at the county level. It's the same type of program for businesses, and also, I mean, even personal household group or a volunteer organization can use this program in order to be better prepared for a disaster. Part of the reason I asked Megan to give this presentation this morning was to help encourage getting the MTA back together again, so we can have that group conversation, emergency management, the county entities, and township association in one area, so I can do some significant presentations from MSPE, MHSC out of Lansing, and get us further down the right track to be prepared for something like that tornado up in Gaylord.
No, we don't have any type of emergency action team already put together.
Well, we do. It takes the community, and it takes the townships. It takes the individuals in the community to actually respond and be able to get through a significant sized disaster. And the biggest gap that we have is at the township level and at the individual level. People knowing how to prepare for a disaster and what to do in a disaster.
public alerting program that we put together is a significant part of closing that gap. And as our dispatch and myself learn more about how to use that program, I think there are a lot more. I think the gap is closing. But if that tornado and Gaylord had happened here, it would have been a real struggle for the first 24 to 48 hours of putting people together. We have a brand new CERT team. We only had 4 people show up to the meeting last month. I've been in contact with several others since then. They said they will be at the meeting at the end of June. And they are starting their training. But you know, again, that team is going to take some time to be prepared, to be trained, to be prepared. It's really about advertising and getting it out to the public of how to be ready for, you know, something big happen, what to do, how to respond, and how to prepare for it.
Well, I think that's very important that we at least look at maybe the top 5 or top 10 most common or most common things that could go wrong in our community, and how we're going to deal with that. Who's going to be in charge? You know, from every township to the county, law enforcement, emergency personnel. I think it's very important that we get some kind of a plan together as to what we're going to do for each occurrence.
At the county level, that has actually already been done.
Okay.
Number one risk for our county is hazardous storms,
Yep.
Dangerous storms, severe weather. And number 2 would be hazardous material spills due to how many highways, freeways that we have going through our area, and the hazardous materials, the train that comes through here. All of that would be our number 2 risk for a major disaster. So, we have emergency operation plans in place of how to respond to these things also. Currently, Ron Vaughn and myself have been working on updating our hazards mitigation plan to go forward. But again, as we get further into that, we're going to need help from the townships. FEMA is requiring that the townships be involved in the hazard mitigation plan. I've been working with Tim Dullahanty's office, Mary Childress, in order to develop an all hazards plan for the county buildings currently. So we have a good plan for all the county buildings. And that plan will be able to be adopted by businesses or our schools. I've been working with the schools on developing that. West Branch Road City Schools has a good plan, and so does St. Joe's School now. They just finished developing theirs this spring. So, I mean, you know, there's a lot of movement in the right direction, but we're still, in my opinion, a long way from me saying that we're really prepared for something significant.
And Ron, do you think that this would be a great tool?
Oh, sure. Anything that we can use is going to be a great asset to the community, whatnot. Like Mike was saying, the CERT teams, one of the problems we found out with that initially was when we had our first meeting, we had like 20 people there, but you had firefighters, you had law officers, you had EMTs. They're already going to be on scene.
Yeah.
They're already, you know, we need the public to step up and to get them to volunteer and put their time in volunteering, and is a big issue.
Mhm.
So,
I agree with
you know,
that.
we just need to put it out there to get more people involved to help us out.
And the township is where that can happen.
Absolutely. I think that's a very important point you just made. I mean, most of our firefighters and police officers are ready for these types of things to happen. They're trained for it.
Yeah, they're
But your township supervisors and even our board, we're not always
Right.
up to date on everything. And it's going to take a huge effort from a lot of people beyond our law enforcement and emergency responders to, make things happen. So,
The goal in emergency management is for the first 72 hours for our jurisdiction to be self-sufficient, to be able to support itself in a disaster for the first 3 days as outside resources are on their way in. Megan can talk, if you'd like, she can talk a little bit about how quickly and how significantly the coordination of Gaylord
That was
happened.
fast.
John Demme, the Spanish emergency manager and the director of the EMS up there for as long as I can remember. And he's very dedicated to his work. So they were very well organized up there in Gaylord. And throughout that disaster, it really showed all those years and all that coordination that he put together.
Scott, Mark.
How do we, I know that MTA is kind of fallen by the way. How do we get the townships back into getting their county MTA meetings back together? I think that's the big issue is, right, Mike? I mean,
It really
trying to
is.
take and get them together as a group.
It really is because, the MTA meeting is the only quality meeting that I can get to where I can get everybody in a room together to bring MSP and EMHSD, the experts in, to give them the knowledge they need in order to build in their areas. I've spoken with Carol on 3 occasions so far this spring as the MTA started coming together. And her answer to me is, I don't know, Michael, I don't know when we're going to. So this morning, I guess this is what this morning is all about for me is to maybe get you guys to talk to your supervisors in your townships and say, hey, guys, we really need you guys to pull it together and get back into a group again so we can move forward.
At least have one annual meeting with all the townships.
Yeah.
At a minimum, I mean,
Well,
quarterly would be great. I don't know what they used to do in the past.
Oscoda County.
But
This would definitely be a
Oscoda
good
County, the
reason.
MTA meets 9 months out of the year, every month. They do not do June, July, and August. Aranet County meets once every 3 months, every quarter, as an MTA. Aranet County's MTA is the really large gathering. They probably have between 50 and 75 people at that meeting every quarter. But they bring in the county commissioners and the road commission and the sheriff's department and EMS. They bring in all those other departments at their MTA quarterly, and everybody gets an opportunity to give some kind of report. So, and I use it as a platform in order to bring specially educated people in and to educate us on how to improve.
Gary, do you think that maybe we set up a meeting, a joint meeting between the townships and the county, and try to get this kind of brainstorming session going? And then obviously we'd have this tool that we can also use to evaluate it. I think that'd be a good idea.
I think we should probably just this next month, because I don't think anybody's hitting township meetings yet, means we're June the 2nd. When we go to our townships, throw it out there and get their feedback.
Yeah, my first one tonight. Cummings Township.
This township.
I don't know that we need to duplicate Mike's job doing it ourselves. Let him
Well,
Coordinate.
We should take and get the townships together so Mike can disseminate
with Mike.
Mike can disseminate the information to them as a group.
I think communication both on Mike's part, communicating to everybody. in the
Yeah, I
county.
think.
And also, anytime you get a
Mike's
bunch of
agent.
people together, everybody, or at least some people will have something to bring to the table.
Oh,
Maybe their own personal experiences, anything. I mean, I'm sure Mike's willing to listen to anybody that wants to talk about how to deal with an emergency.
absolutely.
And I think it's important to communicate it to every township, like you said. So I don't know if that's something we can put together after talking to our townships and get it coordinated.
That would be great. To get that township level communication with the emergency management moving again. So,
Okay, so where do we want to go with this?
We're at your mercy where you want to go with it. You've already mentioned about
Just-
talking to the townships. My only hesitation is, the MTA is the township's group. So for the county to take the lead and say, this is the MTA group and this is what you're going to do, may be a step too far for the county. Really incumbent upon the townships to have their leadership, bring this forward and get that going. Although we could certainly assist in any method possible. Really like that Aranac model that you mentioned. I've seen that model work before. And just the idea of everybody getting together once or twice a year is very attractive. And I think that might be enough. Nobody needs another monthly meeting, but once, twice a year, quarterly, whatever, might be enough to really get the attendance there. Get somebody like Megan into that meeting, present this program, get the momentum going, and then you take off from there.
I agree with that.
So, but that'd be my only caution. I don't think it's the role of the county to say we need to have an MTA group.
That's what I'm saying.
There.
We can go out and talk to our townships because we already do, but let them talk to Mike. Let Mike coordinate this meeting or however it happens, because we don't need to duplicate his job. We don't need to do his job for him. Just all these supervisors contact Mike. Mike sets up the whole thing and then invites us.
Oh, yeah,
That's all.
Exactly. Just you guys carry a lot of influence in your townships, and just you telling your township personnel that we really need to get together as an entire group. We'll carry a lot of influence to motivate them, or I'm hoping to motivate them into bringing their MTA group back together again. So the MTA is a vital thing that we have in the county that we're missing. I mean, it's due to COVID, and I understand why all the MTAs went away for a period of time, but it's time to be bringing them back. So we can move forward with these larger county size.
well, thank you, Megan, and thank you, Mike. Any other questions?
Where's Megan? Headquarters?
Megan is.
She's on there. Where's she at?
She's her office is actually in Traverse City.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, my office is in Traverse City, but our volunteers are all over the place. So we have volunteers that are in Iosco, in Mayo, in all the counties kind of surrounding the area. And just so you're more comfortable, just because our volunteers are there doesn't mean that we can't get more. So for the Gaylord tornado, we had people come in from all over the state within the first 3 days to support our activities, which include the sheltering. We could have done feeding, but the county was doing it already. We are doing casework. We do our own damage assessment, and we will share it with Mike. But we were able to get all of those people in, and honestly, that county was so well organized that we did not have to do certain things that we normally do during a disaster, and it moved at super speed. So, they're already repairing roofs. They cleaned up the roadway within the first 24 hours. There's just the amazing things that were happening, and the community really pulled together. So there's been lots of preparedness from Red Cross in that community. There's been lots of preparedness from the other organizations that were part of the community, and the churches were critical. So everybody wanted to volunteer, and the businesses, we know that all the big businesses plan on reopening because they already have these emergency action plans. What we need to worry about is like the small businesses, the shops and things like that, because they are the most likely to not reopen after a disaster. And they're critical services to a lot of your smaller townships. So I think it's important to get this information, not to say the township needs to use this, but that maybe if the township shared it with their smaller businesses, that they have a resiliency like some of the other areas in northern Michigan.
All right, thanks, Megan.
I think, for the county standpoint, we got an emergency coordinator. The county we can back up with emergency management with logistics and things like that. But management, let him manage it. You know, one thing I talked with the sheriff about is that I'd like to see a mobile command post someplace in the county, and I thought the sheriff's department should have that. If you look at some of the pictures up there in Otsego County, that's what happened. Now, state police, they have one, but that's not here. It can get here, you know. That was one of the points that I made about purchasing a pickup truck for the county, was to get a heavy enough one, not an interceptor chaser vehicle, but a heavy enough pickup that could pull a big trailer. It could be a mobile command post. Emergency management needs that. You've got to coordinate incident command in one spot. And not every predicament happens when there's empty buildings around to put people in.
We're working with FirstNet right now, currently trying to improve all communications, internet access, mobile throughout the county for responders and emergency management in order to improve communications along the lines of.
Those are the things that the
command
county
post.
can help with.
Yes.
The county commissioners can help by providing logistic material or something like
The only
that.
thing I'm asking the county commissioners to do this morning is individually, just, mention to your townships that we need to work. We need the townships to get together as a group, so emergency management can come in and give them more information to help build preparedness in their townships.
I think we're willing to do that.
And I know you guys don't have any authority over the MTA or anything else, but like I said, your influence, your townships look up to you.
We can encourage them to do so.
Right,
Right.
just to say, hey, the emergency manager came to us and we'd really like to see you guys get the MTA together. So he can get out there and try to work in your township.
All right, thank you.
Thanks.
On to
Thanks, Megan.
Karen and Bruce. House Bill 4730.
Good morning.
Good morning.
House Bill 4730. Zillow has been lobbying legislators to pass a bill that would allow them to gather data from the treasurer's office and the register of deeds office at little or no cost to sell to their customers to profit from. You're all familiar with Zillow?
Oh, yeah.
They're a very large corporation that is basically the Amazon of the real estate world now. They are realtors, title searchers, mortgage financiers.
We
And
want to be a one-stop shop.
they want to be on, yes. And
At our expense.
at
At
our
our
expense. Yeah, so several counties throughout the state are already passing memos of opposition against House Bill. Clare, Gladwin, Menominee, Bay County, just to name a few, but as boards are meeting, those letters are being produced to oppose the bill. And Denise and I are here today to ask you to do the same.
These initially were instituted in May of 2021, and it was a 4-bill package. 2 of the bills applied to the treasurer's office, 2 applied to the register of deeds. It never made it out of committee at that point. 4730 came about all of a sudden, passed through the House. We didn't even know it had passed out of committee. So now we're fighting it in the Senate. So we're asking for the resolution so that we have the support. They're already contacted NAC. The associations are
Posing.
actively
Mhm.
opposing
Yes.
because most of the information in 4730 is not even treasure information, it's equalization information. So they would be required to actually upgrade your records to provide the information required in 4730
For free.
for free.
To a corporation to sell the data.
Hmm.
Also putting taxpayer information at risk because the more information is out there, the greater risk of identity theft. So it's a risk to taxpayers. It is a cost, we're losing revenue at the county level.
Well, at this time, the equalization records are free of charge to review. So Zillow can go in and get any information that they want free of charge at this point. Most of the BSNA in other counties charge for the equalization records unless you're the taxpayer. But yeah, the assessment cards and stuff that they're requesting from the treasurer is equalization information, not treasurer information. So it would make it very difficult for her office to provide the information.
Now, I see we got Bay County on here.
Mhm.
Has MAC actually issued a response to this yet?
MACT, MACT, Michigan Association of County Treasurers, MARD.
Our
That's here.
Our association president actually sent out a letter to MAC,
Request.
Association of Counties, requesting opposition of it. I do not know if they've received a response at this time.
They have, and at the conference last week during legislative update, Max said they are in support of what the treasurers and register of deeds are doing. And so they're lobbying on behalf of counties with, well, supplementing these two groups who are really in the lead.
Well, it'd be nice to get some of that information to us, and then how do you guys feel about that?
I would be in support of a resolution opposing the bills.
And there is information in your iPad, the letters from MARD, from MAC, from a few of the counties.
Yeah, the
Copies of the resolutions.
The resolution.
Association of County Treasurers, Association of Registered Deeds. It's surprising that it passes through the House to pass.
Surprised us as well.
you know.
So we need your help.
So
And this is
What angle,
only,
I gotta wonder what angle they're taking here.
this is only one of the 4 bill packs of 4
Right.
bills. So we're assuming that once they get this pushed through, that they're going to try to push the other 3.
Yes.
Oh,
And
absolutely.
we do have, Denise and I have copies if you want us to have Tim upload the bills for you, if you want to get into the weeds and read through all the bills. We do, Denise and I have copies of those that can be uploaded to your iPads.
So the first quarter of 2021, Zillow made $1.2 billion. So it's not like they can't afford to pay for this information. They just want to.
Well, they're just gonna pass the cost. They pay us, they're just pass the cost on to the customer.
Well, they want us
They
to
want-
do
They
the
want us to
work
give
for
it to
them.
them for
Well,
free.
I know, but even if we charge them, they're gonna still make 1.3 billion next time.
They're going to make more.
Yeah, but I mean, if they pay us
Yeah.
the fees that we want, they're still just gonna upload that to the customer.
Sure.
They're gonna
Sure.
end up making a bottom line. Oh,
I believe we got enough.
yeah. Absolutely.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Thank you. That's it.
All right, Tom Spencer.
Spencer. I've heard that name before.
Uh-oh. We're in trouble
First item is the prosecuting attorney's office software purchase.
Yep, I sent out that kind of preface letter and put it on your iPads in hopes that it would kind of expedite things and that answer some of your questions prior to the meeting. We received an email in February of this year that the current software that they're using, basically, we were told, don't run your security patch updates, don't update your servers because it may break the software. Well, that was certainly alarming to most information technology professionals. And as you can see from some of the correspondence, we were gathering pitchforks towards the company because we pay them. It's not a substantial amount of money, but they kind of recanted that email and sent out a revised email and said it may break instead of it will. And it's still,
That helps. Huh?
yeah. A lot of people are jumping ship on PACPAM. And actually, we were told that they are looking for a replacement for their own software. From what I understand, this is an association for the state, the Prosecutors Association. They have this software and they've developed it and kind of failed to maintain it. So they're looking, I'm thinking to kind of contract an alternative. But as far as like pricing and everything goes, I don't think it's going to change if we were to do something now. But the prosecutor's office and I sat through 4 different demos and we've kind of come up with one that we think suits us best. But obviously it comes at a cost. And it's basically $70,000 to implement it. And then a yearly maintenance fee of close to basically $9,000. We're paying a lot less than that now. However, there are features to the software that are a lot better than what we have now. For example, when our police report comes in, it comes in on paper and it's logged into a folder. All of that would be uploaded. And from what I understand, Prosecutor Schultz has talked to some of the 5 police agencies that we deal with. They will be willing to contribute some of the cost for that interface. So our yearly maintenance will be less and the first year would be slightly less because a good chunk of the cost would be data conversion and the setup of the program. And then also when an attorney represents somebody that's been charged, they get a copy of that report, they get a copy of the evidence. We wouldn't be duplicating that work in the prosecutor's office by making copies of some of these, hundreds, thousands of pages of reports. It would all be electronically distributed to the attorneys. And she's spoken with them and they would also be willing to chip in some of the interface costs too. So when you see these costs, are they going to be half? No, they're going to be, 10, 20% less than what the yearly maintenance fee is and what the first year is.
What types of information is this software going to be able to handle? Like, is it going to be able to handle like obviously different types of formats? But what about video and stuff like that?
Yep, there's components there for
So
evidence.
any kind of evidence at all?
Correct. Not physical, but
Yeah.
electronic evidence, yes.
So this is PACC and PAAM.
PACAM.
Yeah, I could say that too, but okay. These are groups made up of prosecutors across the state.
Yep.
And they put together some kind of deal by canvassing different software people and came up with this a few years ago.
I believe so, yes. It's before my time here. From what I've gathered and from what I've read, you're fairly correct.
So are they now working on a different thing?
No, they are still,
Are they done doing this?
they're still maintaining it, but we were told by one of the software vendors that we did a demo with that they were being looked at as a replacement for PACPAM. That PACPAM had reached out to them to be their next software vendor.
That's the question I'm kind of asking. I don't want to get into something and then a year or 2 years from now, all of a sudden this PACPAM comes along and says, oh, we finally got our ducks in a row. And we think that all the counties should go this way. They're already working with Carpel? No?
No, but Carpel is the leader, what I think is the leader in the state right now for people that are leaving PACPAM. And if they were to come up and say, we've got our ducks in a row, we don't have to use the software.
No, we
We're not
don't have
obligated to
to.
use anything from their association.
Right, we don't have to. Of course, we don't have to, but I don't want prosecutor come along or 2 years from now, a new prosecutor, if that would happen, came along and said, oh, hey, we should follow the association, I think it's just a question to ask. I mean,
I can ask the
so
question.
many of our departments follow recommendations from associations. We just talked about this in this House bill.
Sure.
We got 3 different other associations and they're asking us to do this. And we agree. I don't know, down the road, is PACPAM gonna come along and say, well, we really wanted all the counties to go this way?
And they can do that, but we're not.
But they're not working on anything new.
No, but I understand the question that you're asking, but I do feel that Carpel is the answer to that question because more counties are using it in Michigan some of these don't even have any clients in Michigan that we looked at. And then
Either.
the one that we looked at is a secondary to Pac-Man. They were, and we asked them, are you working on an interface with Carpel? And they said, yes.
Okay.
So I feel that Carpel is the way to go because I think it's going to be the more common software here soon.
Who currently is using Carpel?
The list is in there in that. When I typed it, Alcona, Claire, Crawford, Grand Traverse, Isabella, Kent, Lapeer, Macasta, Roscommon, and Saginaw, and more. I asked them for their most recent client list, and I didn't get it from them before the meeting. But they're also not just Michigan based, they're in the US, and they had a highlighted map of every state that they're in, and it's pretty substantial.
All right, that's the one you're recommending is Carpel.
I'm recommending, yes, and the prosecutor's office as well. Obviously, I wouldn't do this on my own. They're the ones that have to use it.
That's smart.
You
Yeah,
guys have any experience with Carpel at all?
We have not, no, I don't have any personal experience.
Have you gotten to look at this a little bit or?
No, we weren't involved with that particular part of it. I've seen similar type, like that watch card we're looking at. Has similar features to where they can download stuff directly to the prosecutor's office, video evidence, photographs, that type of thing. So, I mean, if he's saying that that program does well, I trust what he's telling us, but just from what I've seen at WatchGuard, definitely makes life a lot easier sending stuff to the prosecutor's office.
Yeah, I know that personally. Sometimes things get lost. So, yeah, I mean, sounds like a great idea. What do you guys think?
and I don't know about the financial end of it right now. I was talking with Tim about some of the opioid settlement that it could, you said that there's still some legislation coming down as to how that could be spent.
It's actually negotiation going on with legal teams and Attorney General that will define some of that, but probably this summer.
As I say,
see the funds released.
I would like to move forward now, obviously, but if we were to move forward now, I don't think we could probably take that money and use it because we've already done it. So I'm not opposed to maybe waiting till fall. The server that it's on is out, the server that PACPAM is on right now is out of warranty, but the software maintenance is up until 2023 from Microsoft, server 2012. I would probably not want to wait more past fall because it's going to take them quite a bit of time to get this implemented. And we would like the current data migrated. So that's going to take up some time. So I'm not opposed to waiting until we see kind of how the opioid settlement pans out, see if we could use those funds.
And the other cost is the server, 13.5.
Correct. To replace the server that it's on, we're going to spend approximately $13,500 for a server anyway. So that would eliminate that cost.
And this annual cost, that won't get a hit on the first year. 'Cause
No.
after the first year, so the $85,000 we spend, we won't get another charge on top of that until next year.
No, it's 71, I think, is it 77?
Plus 13.5.
Oh,
You need a
no.
server too, right?
No, not for this. No, if we were to keep PACPAM now, we would have to buy a new server.
Oh, we don't have to buy a server with this?
No,
Right, so you save that.
Oh,
we're spending 70 to save 13.5.
we need more guys like you around, I'll tell you.
Now, is. any
Flipping over that
part of,
dime.
This current equipment that we have, part of our business plan to upgrade in the future already?
Actually, no, and this is relatively, I don't want to say new because it has been sort of in the works with the prosecutors group for a while. But the other thing that the delay will help us with, I know this, the courts are undergoing a statewide, some kind of a modification to that system too. It'll give us time to just make sure everything is in sync with what the courts are going to have. Eventually, the courts are going to go paperless. So we're going to need to make sure we're compatible here, which I'm confident we will be. They've been around in other states, have already gone paperless. And so if they're in other states, they probably are in sync. But this will give us a little more time just to make sure that we're not doing anything that's going to cause another headache.
Sure. I actually have a meeting at 2 p.m. today about that conversion. And there's information that uploads out of PACPAM now to the courts. And Carpel is working with, I think it's actually in Roscommon County. They're working with them to upload the information for the new interface for this web conversion. So I agree with what you said, to wait a little bit, because they're still working on that interface, because this is new to Carpel, this new web conversion.
All right.
And it's twofold then. See about the opioid funds. Hopefully they'll get some direction as to spending limitations or not on this, as well as this conversion that the court's doing. Carpel started using Roscommon as a test bed or whatever, so.
And again, the current cost of our maintaining our equipment right now is what again?
It's what, $4,200, I think.
$4,200. Okay.
We still have some membership dues if they're gonna be part of that association, but the membership dues are $522 per year.
Oh, I see.
But our PAC-PAM support is $42.71, so.
So ACTG, JCT, I don't know how you say that, but
ACT and JCT and PAC-PAM are the same thing. It's PAC-PAM is Prosecutors Association, adult case tracking and juvenile case tracking
Oh,
is
I
their
see.
software.
all right, the software, it's not going away. It just isn't keeping up with times.
Correct. And I think it will go away because of that.
Because it's not, it may not be compatible to Windows down the road.
It's going to become obsolete.
You know what it reminds me of, the back end of it, honestly, is Pontum.
Yeah.
It is the same Firebird back end as Pontum was.
They're just not keeping up with things.
No,
You think then, do you think that PAC and PAM is gonna disown this software?
they may.
We haven't
That's
heard that
that's the
from them,
question.
have we?
No,
Where does PAC and PAM sit on this? Do they want counties to stay with this type program, or do they want them to shop around?
have not asked yet. We were just told that PAC-PAM is sourcing a new case tracking software to replace their ACT, JCT. So we have a feeling that they're probably gonna jump ship on what they have now.
Well, you got that image soft on base, and it says software secondary component.
Correct. That is not a full replacement to case tracking. That is a supplement to it. So that is like the evidence upload and the attorney's able to download, but it interfaces with PAC-PAM. So we probably don't want that.
Well, I can see by the price tag, I sure don't want it.
And I believe that quote was for them to do a full replacement of PAC-PAM. And I think we were fronting some of that design, well, most of that design cost. That's
You
why
think?
that's so expensive. As with some of the other ones, so information uploads, when somebody gets charged, that information uploads to Michigan State Police. So when you run somebody's information, it shows that they've been charged in the county and whatnot. And one of those software vendors did not have that interface. And it was $6,000, which was more expensive than some of the other ones who already had that interface. And I think we were fronting the cost for them to develop that interface.
So what do you think the lifespan on this Carpel thing is?
I don't think it's going anywhere, and it's not a server here, it's cloud-based.
How long we've been sticking with this software we got now?
Before my time.
I can recall a time 10, 15 years ago when the ACT, JCT was new.
Okay,
So and I'm looking at 10 to 15 years, I would project probably the same type of cycle with this, depending on how well they keep up with the times. So as technology change and prosecutors change how they do things, if they keep up with it, it could be, a really long-term thing, but it's like any other software. At some point, it becomes obsolete. We go to the next greatest upgrade and whatever that might be. So probably 10 to 15 years.
And they have an obligation too. I mean, there's statutory requirements that certain forms, the design of the forms be used, warrants and whatnot. They just can't write it on a regular piece of Word and this is good enough. I mean, there's a standard format across the board.
This Carpel, this software provided by Carpel, I mean, has it been around a long time?
I don't know an exact date, but
'Cause I don't want to know if it's 10 years into the 15-year cycle already.
no.
Well, I mean, that's entirely possible. I mean,
They could get bought out, but I don't foresee that happening.
well, I don't mean
I can
that.
show you the map of the.
Everybody
US.
else got Windows 10. I'm still on 97, you know?
No comment.
Everybody looks at my phone and says, where'd you get that old thing?
Hey, at least it's not a flip phone.
Wow.
All right, so we can revisit this in, say, a month.
Sounds good.
Maybe.
Jack, keep
I
looking.
think really that the linchpin here is going to be the opioid rules. And so once those are out, I think that'd be a great time to bring this back. And then we'll know for certain if that's an allowable expense, which I'm very confident it will be, but it's nice to see that actually in writing and confirmed.
So you bring it up once a month and
All right,
look on your phone,
State
Craig.
of Michigan probation,
Windows 11.
Yeah.
State of Michigan probation and parole, a Xerox license.
Lease. So you got 3 different leases in here, actually. And the first sheet that I put together, there was some talk, and I wasn't here. I was on remote doing the Zoom meeting about the Xerox leases and the cost and whatnot. And after I started here, I looked into the Xerox leases, and I don't think that we're gonna get a better deal on some of these. And it doesn't matter if we get 15 all at once or if we renew them incremental, the price is the same. And the second part to that is I have to set these up. They don't come in and set them up. So I don't want 15 machines rolling in and out of here all at once. So the incremental leases are fine with me. But I put together what I think is an apples to apples comparison of a lease versus an outright purchase. And this lease price actually comes off the quote for one of the machines that's being quoted for this meeting today. So I based it off of like 1,250 pages, slightly above what they're including for 800 pages. And I did the same thing on the outright, except I put the price of the machine, the cabinet that we get, the stand that it sits on, the additional tray, because some want 2 different, an 8.5 by 11 and a legal tray, and then toner. And if you buy 3 to 4 toners a year, that's going to add up over time. All the supplies are included in that lease. So at the bottom of this, the lease versus outright, and I can't say that this is 100% because it's going to be skewed off of usage. But there's what I think our savings are on just a machine like this. We would lease it for over a 5-year span of like $2,293 versus buying the machine outright, the toner over time, the maintenance kit over time is like $6,413. And also on the outright machine purchase, I put in a 4 additional years of on-site service because that typically doesn't come when you buy a machine, but it's included in the lease. If anything goes wrong with it, they come here and fix it.
Or they replace it.
Correct.
Where's actually,
I think leases are the way to go. I mean,
It was just,
if the machine breaks, they bring in a new one. They're Johnny on the spot with taking care of them. If the machine goes obsolete during the lease period, they bring in a new one.
the company that we lease these from has been very good to us. There's been shortages on machines, with what you're saying, Johnny on the spot, they are the best that they can be with what inventory they have. It took us a while to get the one for the copy machine in here but they never raised the price when it was out of a lease. We maintained it. It broke, they came and fixed it. And we never saw a bill for it. I mean, it was all included in that lease.
I don't see any comparison between,
Did you have the Xerox lease? Or just before it? It's before them.
before that is the
So
Pac Pam.
Oh, you might have to refresh your Google Drive then. Anybody else?
Is that on Windows 11 too, or re?
Here, go out of here.
Oh,
I put it all in current meeting.
we need current meeting. That was current meeting.
Yeah, I don't see it either.
Hey, under current meeting or 6-2?
Oh,
What's two?
you gotta get out of that
Yeah.
meeting, go to another
I put it
meeting.
in Current meeting, so go all the way up.
That's what I just clicked on. It was that
This-
one.
Oh,
A meeting this date and then he's got a current meeting.
got it. All
It's
right.
kind of like a secret code.
I didn't even know about the 6-2 folder.
Yeah, we,
I always
Wow.
put
Think
it
of
in
those
meeting.
because the online is connected to the current meeting.
Oh, I
so
see.
That's what everybody gets. And then we create these archive files as we go.
So I must
So
have.
if you added to one and not.
Oh, I never-
What's going on?
I never looked at current meeting. I always looked at the date.
So did I.
There-
I
So
supposed to
didn't
be,
realize. it
we're not
even
supposed to be
existed.
looking at that?
no, you're right. We'll have to,
Well,
Here, no.
say that real loud.
Yeah.
Say that real loud. I like to hear
Educate
that.
us.
yeah,
Oh, my
Um,
Lord.
we'll talk. I mean, Tom probably didn't know we do that. We try to create these archive folders at the same time so that we catch everything into one. If somebody goes in and drops one into a folder, we don't know about it. One's gonna have, one won't. So.
Like I
that's all
did
it is.
yesterday,
We'll-
I'm still not seeing it though.
under current meeting,
Gotta go all the way to
Current meeting.
like drag down.
Go all the way to the top. Go all the way to the top. 3C2A.
Oh, that one.
There you go.
Okay.
All right. All right. Now, the meeting that you weren't here for, that you were remotely, you were goofing off in the UP. And no, I know.
No, I was at
But
home.
anyway, remotely. The thing was the anniversary date, all the machines, so that if we ever got into a bid or if somebody else came along or whatever, we weren't hung out to dry on contracts for this machine, but not this machine, and everything else. And if we anniversaried everything, it wasn't that you're gonna get a bunch of different machines, but it would, business-wise, it would give us the opportunity to even leverage a bid better. Because right now, the way it is, spread out over years, Xerox is whatever vendor we're dealing with says, well, if you get a better deal from this guy, he's only gonna give you 4 machines because I'm still in a contract with 16 machines.
Sure.
I'm not worried. Next year, it's gonna be the same story. Now, they like to spread them all out for that reason. We got, so that was my point when we were talking about anniversary of contracts. Now I'm looking at this. Now, I don't know what page it's on now because you got me all goofed up. But, here it is. These all have different prices on them.
Correct. It's based off of usage and the type of machine. They're not the same exact machines. One's black, one's color, and one's,
What's cheaper is for the color machine. I'm looking at one here, black and white impressions for probation and parole. I see no color option.
that's because it's black and white printer only.
Well, it's $44.86 for the lease. And the one that has got the color impressions, I can get it for $28.
And it doesn't have a cabinet with it. It doesn't have a second tray.
Well, how do we know that?
It says it under product description.
Description. Here.
Yeah, it's good. Right here.
That stand costs $20 a month more. Well, these are the kind of things when you're bidding is use that leverage in bidding and getting the extra stuff cheaper. You're paying $20 for a steel tray and a storage stand. That's a one-time purchase for them. They end up making more money later on by charging us a heavier lease. But as a buyer, I want to use as much leverage as I can to get the cheapest rate. See what I mean?
I do. However, we're also looking at different volume too, 1 to 3,000 pages.
Okay, now are we,
800 pages.
are we evaluating and keeping track of pages in departments, or are we just taking on a salesman's giving us this and saying, wow, 3,000?
There's a counter on the
No,
machine.
yeah, I'm not, but no, they have it on their, when they get their bill, it tells them their meter reads. I mean, I can see the meter reads in the machine,
Okay.
yes.
Okay,
But we're not just taking a word that we printed 2,000 extra pages for a month. That information is in the machine.
well, once again, then, this cheap one is all print. That means that, what's that mean? Unlimited printing?
No, all prints of, which one are you on?
The last one.
The court?
The court administrator,
So yes, we would pay,
$28.
we would pay per page. There's nothing included. Oh, no, volume band, all prints.
All prints.
There's nothing, there's no
There's no limit?
1 to 800. So we pay that amount per page,
Well, previous one is 1 to 800.
correct? So the
Okay.
first 800 pages, we don't get billed per page.
Okay, and that's $32. And the one that's all prints, we pay $28.
Correct.
How many prints do we get there? All, none?
Done. We pay per page.
So we gotta pay 800 times a penny. $8
Correct.
for the first 800.
Take into consideration too, we're looking, if you're gonna compare those two, we're looking at the medical services office at the jail, which receives faxes and prints things.
Okay, well, I just want to have apples, to apples.
I don't think you're gonna get that with these three though. And then you're talking about the district court administrator upstairs who has her own office, whose machine is on the fritz, just like the jail is. So you're not looking at the same amount of printing.
Okay. I just want to take the biggest bang for our buck, that's the whole point,
Me too.
Mark?
Again, I said, I think police is the way to go. I mean,
Yeah, well, I go by what Tom says.
he's the the knowledge expert.
Yeah, and that's why he's in that position.
Yep.
No, all three of these payments look legitimate based on, black and white, number of pages. Color impressions obviously cost more. So even though that minimum payment is less, you're probably gonna end up paying more for that color printer, depending on how many they print off every day. Makes sense. So,
Well, I don't have a problem with all the particulars on the machine and everything else, but I really think that it'd be advantageous if all our leases and anniversary on the same month, in the same year. Now, I gathered you don't like the idea of maybe a big workload, but I think that we have better leverage if have all our machines at a certain point. So I'd like to say, we reach out to them and say, look, how do we do this to merge these new contracts in with the next with the existing, to end up coming up with the same anniversary
So they all
date.
expire at the
They
same
all
time.
expire at the same time.
I have asked, they told me it doesn't make a difference in the pricing.
Okay, well, then that's good.
Right.
That's good. That doesn't matter in price. Now we can work toward the same anniversary date. Then it doesn't cost us any more to do that then.
No, but it costs me a lot more work. I can ask him if you want, but I'll ask him again. I'll say,
Well, my primary concern here is anniversarying them to the same date and year. And my second priority is your workload, okay? Just to be frank with you. I'm looking at the leverage of bidding if I need to. That's my point. Your workload,
we have-
you hired a guy that can handle the workload.
sooner, so that you can, maybe week by week, right before it expires.
the only thing I could say we could do is maybe they could drop them off one week and pick them up the next, because when, for example, MSU wanted to go with Konica Minolta in the annex building, another vendor. So it turns around, we used to bill them per page, now they're billing us. So
Who is?
MSU. We used to we used to break up the Xerox bill between MSU, veterans, animal control, and not building and zoning, because they have their own. So we used to break it up between those three departments. MSU had the brunt of the bill because they did most of the printing. So they did most of the printing. They have other offices. They didn't want to stick with Xerox. They wanted to go with Konica Minolta. So the Konica Minolta machine arrived, that Xerox sat there until Xerox came and picked it up when they dropped off our other machines. So if they want to drop off 15 machines all at once, that's fine. I'll tell them they can come pick up the old ones next week. So at least there's not 15 coming in and 15 going out at the same exact time. They can swing through with a truck and pick up the old ones.
Okay,
Sounds reasonable.
so
I'll add-
we're still paying for copies even though they bought another machine?
Our usage, yes, for veterans and animal control.
Well, animal control, but now it's sheriff's office, not,
My bill was $3.83.
wow. Watching that, I'm watching that.
I don't think I'm killing you too.
I'm watching that. Not too bad, but times 100, that starts getting into money.
Craig says if it hits $4, we're doing payroll deduction.
Ron, you got anything? Tim?
No, I'm willing to help wherever I can, if I can. I don't want to mess anything up either.
So how do we,
Well, am I just sitting here by myself about this anniversary date?
where are we paying for it?
Ask the question.
I can,
Oh, it's already budgeted.
That's what I'm saying.
Oh, yeah.
Just ask the question, come back with some answers.
Yeah,
All right.
I can see their hesitation to it.
So we're putting a resolution together for it?
Well, I'd like to know, Ron just said that, I'd like to hear the question asked to Xerox about anniversary, the date.
If you get all of
What do
the-
you think?
Expire at the same time.
He can reach out. to
Ask
us.
him.
So, once you get an answer, then let's get with Tim and we'll get something together.
I have an idea. See what we can do. If the lease's price doesn't change, that gives me an idea about how we can line those up, or, without going through a lot of acrobatics.
am I reading you correctly? And the price doesn't change when the lease expires, so let them expire then?
That's what I'm asking you. If the lease is going to be the same, the amount's going to be the same no matter what. This might be an easier task than I thought initially, because typically you would have to wait for each lease to expire and then negotiate leases that might be 1 year, 2 years, or 3 years in order to get them all lined up at the end.
Correct.
So that would be a multi-year process, but if the price isn't going to change, it might be easier to do than having to wait everything out.
I see what you're saying.
A month until the last machine is paired, and then we'll talk a contract. Then we can sit down and say, now we're willing to go 5 years on everything we got from this day forward. If you give us that stand for free and you don't charge $3.83 animal control.
All right, so that's takes care of 2, 3, and 4 there. All right, so GPS asset management.
I gave a quote to Tim for the asset management this morning. I asked BSNA for an updated quote pretty much. And I imagine next committee of the whole maybe, or the next day.
And if we want to do it that quickly, my plan was to include this in the next year's budget, but it's not a huge amount. It's actually less. This revised quote is less than what was quoted before, so that's a good thing too. It's running roughly $7,200 to do it. And it's the BSNA module, so it will be totally compatible with everything we already have. So that would, from a budgeting and planning standpoint, is ideal. The only question is, do we want to do it now or do we want to wait until the new budget year included there? I'm indifferent either way. We're in June, so it's not like it's a huge hit to the current fiscal year.
Well, I think we already made the determination we're gonna take this out of ARPA funds as well.
Asset management or because we did with the GPS.
Can we
Well, I
can
thought-
do asset management too, can't we?
Sure you can.
That's what I thought we were doing is
Why?
both of those at the same time, but
Send us the information. Via email, let us read it over and maybe we'll just make a motion from the floor.
and then, I know you said something about
Somebody,
the GPS being contingent on what 911 was doing. I guess if it ends up that they can't utilize it, which is very disappointing, we could still go forward with just the county.
True. From what I understand though, is that what I've heard at the meetings is that this is something that the county is going to spearhead here, and that's not true. It's something that it's going to go through 911 dispatch. So if you're going to reach out to other entities to see if they want to use this, I really don't think that's our position to do. I think other entities, if they want to use it, we can say, hey, dispatch has this capability, but we're not the ones that are going to bill the road commission if they want to put GPSs on all their trucks. Dispatch will. This is done with the multi-county CAD system that they're getting. We can't do anything with the GPSs until the new CAD system is done, which was last fall, which is now spring. They're doing all the data conversion from the old one. I don't have an ETA. You may. Have you heard anything at the meetings? Fall. So we're back to fall. So in the fall, when the new dispatch CAD system is up and running, then we can look at the GPSs then. And to my knowledge, IOSCO is set up on the new CAD and they are using the GPSs, I was told. I don't know if that's true.
yeah, they are.
Okay, so it's capable. It's working in the other county with the same system that we're gonna be sharing.
Can we get the information on that software?
Yeah, I have some of
So,
it.
just to make sure that it's gonna meet our needs as a county as well.
Why can't the vendor charge each user?
They may, but it's not our software either. It's dispatches. So possibly,
It's common for the vendor to send one bill. The whole package, one bill. And then in the case of dispatch, they would then send out.
Separate.
They break the bill.
Break it
down.
down. The vendor rarely would split that up like that. I'm not saying it's impossible. I've not heard of one that would do that.
no, and that's why I kind of told Tim, dispatch, from what I gather, is gonna be like the broker for this. It's not us. If other entities want GPSs on their vehicles, they're gonna get with dispatch and dispatch is gonna bill them.
It's like,
And they're not willing to do that right now?
Who,
They can't.
dispatch?
Dispatch.
They can't. They don't have the new CAD system yet.
Oh, but are they willing to do that when the CAD system comes?
Yes, I've talked to Jesse and yes.
this is similar to the fiduciary resolution that we had, I think, at the last meeting with emergency management. There's one place where the bill goes.
Right.
And then
Right.
it gets split up.
Well, I guess I
It would
was,
be a lot
I
less
was,
probably if we had more entities.
I was misunderstanding it.
Maybe not
I
get
thought,
involved with it.
I thought I was hearing 911 didn't want to be the fiduciary responsibility, but you say they do.
No, I
That's fine.
verbally
I
asked
mean,
Jesse,
even if they wanted to charge a little extra for administration fee, I mean,
mentioned that to Tim yesterday.
but I'm not gonna tell them that.
No, but we're not gonna see it. Yeah. We're not gonna see that.
Somebody's probably gonna tell them, I said.
That's the only concern I would have is just making sure that we can obviously utilize that software for possibly insurance benefits, as well as just being able to know or more transparency with all of the assets within the county.
Sure. And one of the questions is, and that's when it gets more to that time, obviously, we don't want dispatch to be the only user that has access to where the cars are or where, whatever entities want to use this. That's one of the questions that needs to be asked, and that's still up in the air.
Obviously, we want it to go through 911. It needs to stay secure. We can't have other entities seeing live results,
No,
stuff like that.
but at the same time, if other entities are going to join, we don't want them seeing us and we don't want to see them either. But dispatch wants to see all.
Exactly. All right. So
I'll shoot out the email with the quote on the asset management. And if you decide you want to add it next week to the agenda. I'll be prepared with a resolution if you want to do it. If not, we'll bring it back to the next council.
I definitely
I think it's pretty
look forward
common,
to asset management needs to happen.
Definitely.
And then I guess we'll get with Jesse and see where we go from that one. But if we could get a copy of that software package so we can kind of see what we're looking at.
Sure, I'll send it to you via email. And she gave me the model number of the GPS that they're supposed to be using and whatnot. That shows like the accessories and everything.
Oh, cool. Thank you.
Sounds good. Thank you.
Thanks, Tom.
You're welcome.
Thank you.
All right, Ray Blamer, building addition.
I make noises when I get up and sit down. I'm getting old. I'll even sit down. So basically, I've got a grant for $180,000 to build a cold storage pole barn. And I got with, you guys are familiar with Gary Miller from Miller Construction. Well, him and I have known him forever. And he just put a bid together for me just to give me an idea of how much it's going to cost for the size building we were hoping to build. When I put this grant together, it was over 3 years ago. Well, now building costs have just, everything has gone sky high. And $180,000 is not going to build a very big building. We have 7 buses sitting outside right now, and we've got another bus that's ordered, and it'll be coming in 6 months, I hope. And that'll be 8 of them sitting outside every night. From an employee standpoint, Ray Schaefer, our mechanic, has got to go out every morning in the winter when it snows and clean those buses off, start them up. It's dangerous. He's fallen twice this past winter, just slipping on ice and snow, trying to get around these buses, and it's a mess. We need the building. I don't know how much the board will allow me to spend over and above the 180,000 to get this job done. And Karen can attest that we have a lot of money in the bank at this point. The state and federal government have been giving us extra funding since this COVID has began. They're still giving us extra funding this year. That'll all end at the end of this year. The consensus is that we should be doing things with this extra money that they've been giving us to better our facilities, to better our transit systems any way we can, I guess within reason. We don't know what the future will bring as far as how much money we get from the state and federal government. It changes every year. The state especially. But let's say for year 2021, they had us figure it at 36.352545%. I don't know what it was, but that's about how minute the percentage is. But when it was all said and done, it worked out to 41% because every transit agency out there didn't maybe spend as what they budgeted. But we didn't spend what we budgeted. So therefore it gives every agency more money. And I think that we're getting, $60,000 back from our 2021. Off the top of my head, I had a printout sitting there on my desk and I forgot it, and I'm not sure what it was, but I think it's 60,000. So that will be 60,000 extra we're getting. When I had him I had called Gary and I told him, well, I need a breakdown of it. So that's what this sheet was.
Yeah, we have it.
Is a breakdown. And then on this last one, it's just the original pole barn. This pole barn right here is 60 by 120, 7,200 square foot. We can get 16 buses in it. Maybe that's a little bit extravagant, but who knows down the road? Are we
That's
gonna
Plan for
build-
growth.
Are we gonna build another
Plan for
building?
growth.
Exactly.
So with that breakdown, for the whole thing, it'd be $270,000. That's a little excessive, I think. And it doesn't include with the cement, but it doesn't include floor drains. We just can't drain it out into the ground, so we'd have to put a storage tank in. And it didn't include approaches of any kind. So I just roughly figured it on this sheet here about what that would cost. And with no floor for the 60 by 20, 120, we can deduct $37,000, and that is per this first sheet from him that states that. The balance of that would be limestone, 6 inches of limestone, a floor of limestone versus cement. Cement obviously would be much better, but we can get by with limestone. It's cold storage anyway. But in the future, we might want to heat it. You know, we don't really know if we're going to do that or not. I guess I'm trying to get as much barn as I can built for an agreeable price with the board and myself on what to spend.
And Tim, if you talk to him about policy,
Yeah, we had a brief conversation on that. And I would suggest that we do put together the RFP, send it out, get us a, 4 to 6 week turnaround on it. So you get an absolute number. You know that vendor A will build this for this amount. We'll bring it back to a committee of the whole meeting, and you can determine how much beyond the grant allocation that you're willing to spend. I'd suggest, as Ray said, but the fund balance, the transit has, whatever amount comes back in is probably fine. It's not going to
So what?
jeopardize any of
put
the.
everything you want, make the Cadillac building that you want. Don't worry about
That'll be
gravel,
insulated and heated.
everything.
It's-
Well, if that's what it is, put it in. but-
That'd be too excessive. It doesn't need to be heated. It's cold.
At this
storage.
point.
You got air brakes on those?
Nope.
Okay, that's good, because I can tell you what happens when you put a truck
and if-
inside overnight with air brakes. They
And
freeze up
if we do buy
half a mile out.
propane vehicles, you can't store those in a heated building.
Okay.
So,
Yeah, so
I
leave out the heat.
I just wondered on dimensions, if you want to go by the 60 by 120, I did state in here that I think we would need 2 doors in each end. Our initial plan was to park buses lengthwise. And on one side, park them on an angle because you can get more buses in there. We went up to Roscommon and we looked at their bus garage, and theirs is actually 55 by 150. And it's really not quite enough room to get all the buses in there that they would like to park in there. But they have so many propane now that a lot of them got to sit outside anyway. And they're in the process of building a monster barn. It's huge. So,
Well, the one thing you don't, my experience, parking inside is you want to be able to get the vehicle out that you like without having to move 3
so,
or 4 to do it.
and that will be how they're parked at the end of the night. So that they, but our buses don't all go out in the morning.
Right.
They go out periodically throughout the day, so it's a little bit easier
Staggered.
for us.
Well, it's just like the road commission.
Yeah.
Road commission's smart enough to put everything inside, and I know all the advantages for doing that, I mean, one thing I've been saying all along is I want our sheriff's cars under a roof, at least a carport.
Yep.
Why in the heck? Because the call that's gonna come to my house is the 3rd one, and the guy's gonna have to take the ice off the windshield before he comes.
Exactly.
Now buses, the expensive, we pay for buses and everything else, yeah. And you've got an auto wash in there idea too. Put it all in. We should be washing these things every day.
Well, and in the summer, we can wash them, and we are. Maybe not every day, but they're washing them quite a bit. In the winter, you can't wash them outside.
No, you wash them inside.
Well, but the building that we want to wash them in stores other things, and we don't want it. We don't want all of that all of that mist and stuff in there, you know, and that was the reason that I want to buy this wash bot, and I have a grant for that also. Because it's a water miser, it doesn't use a lot of water to wash it. If it's extremely muddy, yeah, we'd have to spray it off, but other than that, you know, these are just ideas that I've had that the more water we put into this tank, the more often we're gonna have to have it pumped out. And that's an expense too, so.
Yeah, but does it save in the long run? Does the bus not rust as fast?
Oh, I would assume that
Yeah.
it would help.
So why, you know, we've already tripped 70, and we tripped over 13,000 to spend 70 at another place, okay? So why buy an expensive bus if I can just pay somebody to haul some water away?
And in the past, the road commission has done that for us, so.
Well, my point is, your first bid spec should be the Cadillac of the building you want. And that you need
And
and
then go
want.
down from there.
And if it comes in too high, then we can scale it back and do it again.
So
60 by 120.
three years from now, we'll get it built, or something else about this RFP. I have to submit this to the state before they'll let me do the solicitation to begin with. So
Have to submit what to the state?
the RFP itself,
Well, that can be done. That's not hard.
right? And I'm not sure that I know how to put an RFP together.
What you do is put together the specs of what you want, send it to me, and I'll do it.
Well, now
I have the
that's-
template and.
That's what we'll do. That's what we do for you.
Is that why he makes the big bucks?
That's why.
And,
That works for
Wait,
me.
what?
and really, to be fair to, obviously, this builder here, he's already put together a plan and it's already public information. So we really need to make sure that if we want to build something or buy something, we got to get an RFP started and let everybody have a fair chance at bidding this stuff.
And that's how it will go down. I didn't know that he was going to. But there again, this is boilerplate. Says it's right on my computer. All I gotta do is fill in the
Then
blanks. you
That's
know,
what it
so-
is. But the thing is the day and age of just, I know this guy, I went to high school with him and he builds and I can just spend 250,000 with him. That can't happen. We have
Oh,
to
no, I
go
know
about
that.
the other
I
way.
know that.
Advocate.
Yeah, okay,
I know
so I understand your thought process is gonna take 3-year process. I don't know. Right now,
Well, I hope not.
Commissioner Vaughn and I sit on Parks and Rec. We'd like to put a sewer system in the RV park
What happened there?
for $500,000. We got an $80,000 grant, and $100,000 from another source, and it's $500,000. So what do? We pare back and we take a look at what can we do?
Their options.
So, but you gotta ask for the most you want. Don't discount 37,000 in concrete.
Well, you know, like I
You
said.
know, concrete's gonna be the best.
Maybe
more in there.
maybe it's more money than I want to spend out of what we have in our account. Because my budget's $1 million a year. If we don't get any money from the state or federal government for a year, we're
Okay.
dead in the water. You know, I mean, it's as simple as that. That wouldn't happen, but it's close.
Put the bid together that makes sense
Okay, I will,
for the transit.
I will.
Tim will help you every step
And I'll-
of the way.
And I'll put that together. You know, there was another question that I had. When talking to Gary, this building that he had bid has laminated poles. I didn't even know they made laminated poles for a pole barn. Did you?
Well,
I didn't know that. So in bidding this, do we want to go with laminated poles? He claims that any builder can buy them. They're just more money. They last longer.
If you want laminated poles, we'll specify that in the RFP.
Well, and that's what I'm getting at. So, okay,
Answer your question is yes, lemonade.
all right.
They last longer.
Thanks, Rick.
Thank you.
thanks.
All right. Sheriff's Office,
You're up. I'm up.
animal boarding fees.
Ladies, gentlemen. Next.
It was pretty formal.
As professional as you can.
I learned from you.
Yeah. All right, first thing on the, Scott came to me with an issue. Budgetary with boarding issues with the dog. So the history of it, prior to this year, the Ray Family Shelter out there in their previous names, they did not charge us the animal control for boarding. So when he would take a few dogs out there, there was no charges that were given to the county for boarding. Correct?
I thought that we.
But it was,
supposed to
it
be.
was set up, it was supposed to be $20 per day for 4 days. And then the dog was theirs.
So there was $20 that
Yeah, it was, but she never charged.
she never charged us.
Because I thought we approved something a while back.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
she wasn't charging back then, up until recently when they had a managerial change. So historically, back in 98, I'm looking at a contract with Aranac County, signed by Howie Hand from the Aranac Board. But they paid $18,000 to the Aranac shelter for boarding costs. So
They're up to, how many dogs was it?
550 animals. So that was 18,000.
That was
So
cats. and everything.
That's just some historical as we have the conversation. So this year, he got involved in an investigation. He had 4 dogs, Newfoundlands. He took them in for neglect. It's going through process as far as the dog owner, but he took those dogs to the Ray Family Animal Shelter, who has since had a changeover in management. They charged for the boarding of the dog $760 to the county. And then there was an extra $100 charge because one of the 4 dogs was in very poor shape and had to go to a special groomer. So he talked to the manager there, and they've come up with an idea that they would be willing to enter into a contract for $5,000 with the county for boarding purposes of animals that animal control would take to them.
50 dogs.
50 dogs.
I took them 47 last year. No cats.
No
It's
cats.
pretty expensive food there, don't they?
Little bit, but
4 dogs at $20, that's $80 a day. 4 days is $320. They got $400 worth of food.
They're big dogs.
big dogs. Yeah,
You should have seen them.
Annual.
5,000 would be the year.
Oh, yeah, I'm just debating the
Well, and
math. I'm not debating. the
And the other thing too is that she's charging that they're in the Newfoundland case, I got a rescue to take them to down in Troy, and they're not charging us.
Oh, but I mean, she's broke down her bill.
Yeah.
4 dogs at $20 overnight and food, $720.
Right. She's learning.
Just at 4 dogs at $20, dog 4 nights is $320, right?
Well, it's more than 4 nights though.
Yeah, it was more than 4 nights.
513 to 521.
Yeah.
Oh,
That was till the rescue could come pick them up. Now, I've also talked to Aranac and Gladwin.
so what
And-
happened with our $20 a day agreement with them for 4 days? What happened with that? Just because they got new management, we don't have an agreement anymore with them?
We never had one in the first place, except not written down. It was just,
Well, it's
Just verbal.
what they're
it was
saying.
written.
No, that
We
was,
voted on it. It's in the minutes. It's public information.
Oh, okay. Because I asked her, I said, you got an agreement? She's like, no, they just told me what to do.
And that's the first I heard of it, so we'll have to look
I
that
don't
up.
remember seeing one among our
I
contracts.
think it's before you.
Yeah.
mhm.
Was there a contract signed?
When Scott first,
Okay. What was it with
With us.
Christine?
Yeah, I think it was almost 4 years ago.
Okay.
Ogemaw
Yeah.
County,
yeah,
Humane Society. Okay.
right. Humane Society. We went back and forth, talked it all out.
Well, I could do this quick research.
Yeah.
And we can see if we can find that resolution.
She charged for that,
If
which
it's relevant.
those costs, no,
Maybe that expired. I don't know.
those costs are gonna be, obviously go to the lady, you know what I mean?
Well, why don't
When
you do
she
that?
gets prosecuted.
Would you please?
Well, it's just that 3 of us agree that we've hashed this over already. And we had a formal vote on it and everything. Now, I don't know what happened to the contract or what, but we had an agreement with them.
Well, I wonder too, that agreement would have been with the previous incarnation, because now they're a nonprofit
No, they were always nonprofit.
But they changed, how did they get to Ray?
I don't know, I think they just changed their name.
Just changed their name. I thought there was a change in the
I don't know nothing
nonprofit
out there.
organization from when they were Ogemaw to now the Ray family. But
Is it still a
regardless,
nonprofit?
Still
Still
nonprofit.
nonprofit. Because I was told by Christina that was running it, no, there was no actual contract, it was just by word of mouth.
I know we talked about it in our minutes.
Okay.
I'm pretty sure that there was an agreement set up.
Because, you know, like, she used to, I call it cherry pick. You know, don't bring me any pit bulls. Don't bring me any of these kind of dogs, just bring me these dogs. So then I was shuffling around different counties trying to get rid of them. Whereas if I get one, a contract like this one,
She gets everything.
you have to take my 50. So
So
as far as the
where we
money,
can, I don't, know if we do that research on what the previous thing would add that to it, but the offer, the conversation was 5,000. You mentioned, we talked to Aranac, or you talked to Aranac, and they said currently they would charge somewhere in the vicinity of 30,000.
30,000 and
They had an agreement with them.
because they don't want to deal with it, because they have
enough.
They-
Enough of their own.
they got enough of their own, you know, I mean, thank God for Catherine down there in Aranac, she has helped me immensely. Takes dogs and training and all this other stuff, but, you know, she's got her own, she just took 9 pit bulls in.
So what's this $5,000 deal?
Well, I did
50 dogs,
50 dogs. for 100
unlimited time?
I figured $100 a piece. Okay,
Okay, but it would be for unlimited, they would keep them for unlimited time?
Right.
No 4-day thing?
no, because actually by law, by law, you have to keep the dog 7 days. It's a stuff called a 7-day straight hold.
That's a statute?
No, that's a law. Yeah,
What state statute?
statute. Oh, I didn't hear you.
Can you get a copy of
I
that?
didn't hear you.
You got a copy?
He's quoting the dog law of 1919.
Yeah.
Yep.
Okay, well,
That's what
it's still in effect, it's still in effect. I mean,
Is there, do you know if there is anything, if we ever did receive any money from the shelter? Have you ever seen any?
Have we received money from the shelter?
Yeah. Have we ever paid money to the
Yes,
shelter?
well, you know, I've been here for 100 years. We used to do Aranac County.
were you here in 1990, not 1919,
1919, when the
1922?
dog law started. We used to house them in Aranac for a large sum of money. Then the animal shelter here opened and the price lowered. We negotiated, we were paying them around 10,000. And then there were a lot of
Yeah, we got
embezzlement issues and
Right.
board
That's
issues.
long
It now
past.
became the Ray family, and I do remember it did pass something. I don't remember ever seeing a contract, but I know the board did pass a motion for the Ray family animal shelter to help with.
So you never seen a bill from them?
No, well, in my
Right.
past,
In your-
no.
in your
I never
previous life.
paid- I never paid in my previous life to the Ray family shelter. I don't know what the past
And that, they've
year.
only had that for what, less than a year?
Pardon me?
I said they've only had that for what, about a year maybe?
The 4-dog thing?
No, the Ray family.
Ray thing.
Oh, yeah, less than a year, but yeah, I mean, as far as not paying the county, it's been since I've been here, so we've gotten away over 3 years.
I don't think you're gonna beat the $5,000.
No,
No,
it's a reasonable amount. I don't think we're not hashing out.
Straight charge $5,000 for
$50.
50 dogs.
And then,
And then what,
and then $100 a dog after the 50, if I go over.
$100 a dog?
Because that's what I'm basing the 50 dogs on,
Okay.
is $100. Because they gotta get, and I understand this, when they come in, they get kennel cough medicine, they get flea and
Yep.
tick stuff and, you know, and prices are going up.
That sounds reasonable.
Do they assume then ownership after a period, after the 7-day, the 9?
After the 7th day straight hold, yes, and 8th day it becomes theirs.
Okay.
Then they can adopt it out, and her adoption rates are $150.
So if somebody comes to get their dog after 3 days,
Yeah.
they charge them for the hold?
We are now, yes. But they would then. Because I do it, if I go pick up a dog and somebody picks it up, I charge them $40. Or they charge them $40, I should say.
They charge them $40
$40.
now if they're going to pick up their own dog.
Yeah.
is that gonna come off that 50?
Are we gonna get
In other words,
credited?
is the county paying and then the dog owner's paying? Are they double dipping the system?
No. Not that I'm aware of.
Yeah, I mean, that's a good point. I mean.
Because I charge
Go
them.
back to 50 now.
Sometimes,
The first
sometimes
dog?
when, it depends on the situation. I do charge, or they do charge $40 for a pickup if I go get it on certain ones. Now, if we want to change that to the money comes back to us or whatever, they could do that. You can do that.
Do they have a draft contract that they want us to look at? We're gonna have to create it.
Yeah.
So we're gonna need to address all these things in the
Yeah.
agreement about how that'll work. That'll
Absolutely.
memorialize it, and then there won't ever be any question.
And then how long are they offering to do this? 1 year?
This is gonna say.
10 years?
She didn't.
We have negotiated.
2-year,
Oh, okay.
3-year contract,
This is just
5-year
the
contract.
conversation, of how do we address
With,
this?
was just the conversation with the new manager. Now she'd have to take it to her board and that. kind of stuff.
Right, she has a board too.
Scott, are they still a no-kill shelter?
Pardon me?
Is it still a no-kill shelter? Or did they
Yes.
euthanize?
No. Just because they say they're a no-kill shelter, doesn't mean they don't euthanize. They have to stay under 10%
So
of
a certain percentage of them still.
10% that they can euthanize. They have to stay under 10%. But they're,
Well, I don't even think,
Well,
even if we
discuss that
pay them
once.
$5,000 a year, even if they're charging something to the new owners, I don't really think that's too unreasonable, actually. Considering 7 days, this is $760. And probably most dogs are not gonna be leaving there after 7 days. Probably gonna be there for a while.
Right.
So
Then I
there's probably a
guess-
lot more added costs there that they need to incorporate to get the dogs out of there.
Well, I know what I pay to kennel my dogs when I go on vacation. so.
and to be honest with you, with the $40 or them double dipping, they're not getting any grants.
If
That
a
I know.
nonprofit, then
That I know. So they're trying to make money anyway.
Even the 50 plus the 40 is not unreasonable.
Right.
Like
No.
Ed said, this is,
Right.
sounds like a good deal.
Yeah,
I mean, they still have to pay their help, so.
Yeah.
and so we're done with that part of it.
Yeah, it's a-
Are
And
you
just,
guys okay?
and just,
Oh, yes.
and just a little toot my horn thing here. We sold 992 dog licenses by the April 1st, and as of last Friday, it's 1,071,
Good.
because I started a new sheet where I give them, they gotta sign it, hold on to it, and I take a picture of them. And I say, I'll be back in 30 days, and it seems to be working.
Well,
We've almost paid my.
now that we get your report through the sheriff, you can come in anytime you want, toot your horn louder if you want.
I've almost made enough money to pay my salary.
Okay, all right.
And they are, just for you guys.
We cut you in pay, then you paid it.
We've got
Have a
the
good
old
day.
county dog ordinance, so we're gonna be looking at revamping it and put a new something together to address a new dog ordinance. So that'll be coming down the pike eventually in our to-do list.
my cat ordinance too.
You want a cat ordinance too? We'll
I
have to
definitely
tweak
agree
something,
with
I
that.
guess.
I definitely agree with that. All right,
It's
Marine Patrol grant reduction.
start.
All right, so I come bearing all kinds of different news. We'll start with the Marine grant. We were awarded this year 6,700, which is down from 8,700. To go along with that, last year's was all federal grant money, which means we have 100% reimbursement. So last year was 100% reimbursement of the money that we spent up to the 8,700 we got back. Currently, this year, they put us into the state grant money, so which is the 75-25. So with the 6,700, we have to have a commitment of 25% from the county in order to get the 75 from the state level. So Deputy Vetters kind of put it together that what we come to 1675 from contingency, if we could pull that, it would put us at the same level as last year. we'll meet the requirements so that we can make the submission to for the state to reimburse the 75 at the end. He's also added in 1325, and that will be for purchase of some equipment that's needed for the different boats and everything, including throw rings, life vests, and to account for the gas price increase. So the request is for 3,000, but the 1675 gets us to last year's level, and that 1325 would be for the extra gear.
Actually, it's not. It's just,
Or gas, go ahead.
actually, it's not the last year's level. The 16,
That'd be fine. They bring you up.
this gets up to 6,700.
Right,
Right now, the state's only, we're getting 5,025 from the state.
right.
So
Still missing
1675, from the county, we're still at 6,700, so we're still $2,000 behind. And then the extra, like I said, the extra 1325 is stuff that we need.
But correct me if I'm wrong, if we do the 3,000, that puts us closer to getting the full 6,700 up to when you read those grants.
Yeah, 13 and a quarter would only be lacking 675 then.
So if we go over that a little bit more, we get the full 6,700.
We'll get the full 6,700.
Follow what I'm saying?
Right, to 6,700, but
Last year we had 87.
87.
So it's not gonna be.
So
the
we're
same
not up to last
Right.
year, we're just trying to keep.
right, right.
Yeah, so I misspoke.
So and actually to be where we, for up to last year, we, plus the stuff, we were looking like almost
46,
500,
3675.
right, so, but I just asked for 3,000 to kind of try and keep where we're at.
So the extra gear is the extra gear. So the 1675 brings to 6,700.
Right, grants us, it gives us the full 6,700.
The 6,700 out of last year. How much did you spend out of last year's total budget on equipment?
I would have to look, I know
Or,
we used the full 8,700 last.
oh, I don't doubt you spent the full amount. I don't doubt that one bit.
But
You guys are really good at that.
Last year.
Yeah. Huh?
last year was the reach pole.
Well, we had less than $500 in equipment last year.
Okay, so then if you had less than $500, then at the level of 6,700, you're gonna have to cut services then.
Yeah, we're gonna cut services to the county.
Well, I mean, if you spent $2,000 worth of stuff last year
Right.
in equipment, then the service level would be the same because 6,700 to cover it, but it's not going to, is it?
No.
How much is it gonna have? Cut 20%? You're gonna have to cut
Give or take.
20% of the service?
Depending on what, depending on where gas prices end up, yeah, it could.
Okay.
Out west, they're talking, what, $6 a gallon right now?
Like the lady from the newspaper is listening, she's gonna report that we're gonna have to cut services back.
Sure.
So in order to sell this, the idea that we're spending more money to the public, I wanna show
Well, it's
them
still
that
gonna be a
we're
reduction. in
doing it
services.
for a reason. We
Absolutely.
wanna maintain services.
Right. Yeah, the 17 lakes are not gonna get the service that they got last year, even if, even with the extra $3,000. And that's just due to the cost of price of wages and fuel and whatnot.
Price of
So,
business.
but that's still gonna be,
That's fuel alone right there.
that's still gonna be able to help us do holiday weekends. The 4th is on Monday, so you're gonna have the weekend before and a weekend after. People are gonna be out a lot that whole week. Are we gonna be able to have to cut back on later on in this, in the summer? Probably. But this will at least help us get through the major holidays,
Well, I don't have any
for the
problem
extra lakes.
to the 1675 to bring the grant back up to
Right.
to
The
get
throw
that-
rings,
in order to get the 6,700 grant.
You've got to have it to be able to get the grant. That's the way the
Yeah.
grants used to be. They used to
Yeah.
be 75-25 until the federal funds started kicking in. They filled
Right.
100%. So it was
Right.
the only people who got federal money this year is ones that are on the
Great Lakes.
Great Lakes who are assisting the Coast Guard. All us inland people, we didn't get no federal money this year. That's just what I'm being told, so. And like I said, with the extra life vests and we got a couple, we're gonna have to have some money into like CPR for the guys at hopefully the end of this year. There's just some extra money that's gonna need to be put out for that stuff. We got a couple life vests that are getting old and outdated, need to be replaced. They're usable, but they need to be replaced.
We just bought that one new.
And we just bought that one new one.
Vest out of this budget.
Yeah.
For
And actually, I gave mine to the other new guy, so I'm wearing an old one, but that's.
Tim, do we have money?
There's money in contingency to transfer to cover
I don't have,
that.
let's put a resolution together and pass it. Maybe you should ask her more like Paul said, though.
Well, and again, I'm not trying to be greedy, but I'm just trying to make sure that we're giving the most to the people of the
It's not
community.
unexpected, don't worry about it.
Yep, I was very shocked when we got the grant return that said, my original grant was for 13,000.
Mhm.
And when they come back and it was only 6,700, I'm like, well,
Okay,
my first phone call was to the girl with Thanos, and she's like, sorry, this is what we had to give to everybody. So,
Yeah.
it is what it is, I guess.
well,
State's only got so many funds.
They only got so much and,
or that's their story.
Well,
but if we can keep
Some-
somewhat of a service
allocated.
county, great.
I asked Paul when he first gave me this before the meeting. And I said, well, maybe you ought to go back to. Go to one. Ask them for a little more money.
Well, that's where we're next on the agenda here, that we got. to talk
You're gonna
about.
bring this up about this
No.
agreement?
And then,
Yeah, there's been discussion with them. They've, between the board and there was some leeway in this contract. There is a 5-year contract. And
In
they,
existence.
with
And
Lego.
and this is before Paul's
Yep.
job and everything else. So I'm thinking that there's an agreement out there that probably doesn't have the commission chairman's signature on. Meaning that somebody in the sheriff's office.
I won't
put
know
up a
that till I
contract.
get, 100%.
And that came from the
till I get back.
previous administration. It's got to, because it's that old. Right.
Mhm.
So
Well, I would be, I wouldn't. I'd be unopposed to go to $4,000 with a resolution for this. I don't know if you guys think that's.
If we've got the money.
If we got
There
it.
is a contingency, there would be enough. Yes.
There's a contingency.
I'm in agreement.
Yep,
All right,
that would be greatly appreciated.
resolution.
That'll give us a few more trips around all the lakes.
Yeah, I don't want you running out of gas in the middle of the lake. so.
It's 186 miles is what it takes to get around.
Make
all
sure
the
you go
lakes.
counterclockwise around all of them.
I do.
Maybe next time we'll get you a paddle boat and we won't have to worry about gas.
And you'll be riding with me, Craig. Anyway.
There's a seat on the back.
We started an exercise program for the sheriff's office.
Right. Well, I'm glad you clarified. That's.
I said deputy, I said deputy.
Yeah, glad you
There's a
clarified.
command officer.
All right. So on the Lake Ogemaw contract, the sheriff and I met with.
Got a copy right there.
No, I don't have a copy, but this is what we can. Between the sheriff and I and the board on Lake Ogemaw. The current contract stated that we would provide 25 days of service at $140 a day, blah, blah, blah. Gas back then was like $3 a gallon for rec fuel. We based it off from, I based it up at national average at the time was $4.69 a gallon for regular no lead. That would even count the rec fuel. Long story short, we've kind of come to an agreement that we are going to cut services back on that lake to 21 days of service from the 25. And they are going to pay the extra fuel. They're going to put on a fuel surcharge tax or whatever that they're going to pay over and above what the original contract was for. So if we spend $7,800 more in fuel this year, they're going to pay it. And keep their budget kind of in check with, that's where we're knocking the 4 days off.
All right, well,
So, which is
Good
basically a lot of.
Copy their contract for us.
why don't you make sure that relay all this with Tim. Tim's gonna write the contract, okay? Sheriff's office doesn't write contract.
It was just an amendment.
I know, but we gotta take a look
We
at
need to
that
see
whole
the
thing.
original.
if this whole, we gotta look to see if this original contract's a real legal contract to do. Just because the sheriff's office 5 years ago wrote up a contract, doesn't mean it's legal.
Well,
Because
we're definitely
commissioners-
paying a lot of money for some resources that we could definitely utilize before we sign anything. So
Yeah,
make sure we use them.
I'll get,
Well, we need to
Tim and
ask.
I've talked about it.
They
already,
have a copy of the original contract.
But no, it's in there.
you have it then.
Not here. Or do you have it here?
May I?
That's prepared.
Who's it signed by?
Nobody by the board.
Oh, yeah.
So
Yeah.
again, you're right. It's
Well,
probably
look,
not real binding, but
I'm not coming over there doing your job for you,
right.
okay?
So much.
But contracts is our job, don't do ours. Okay, that's just simple.
Right.
I don't care how it was done 5 years ago and 15 years ago and everything else. Commission takes care of the contracts. And when we're talking prices, the commission talks the prices. Okay,
We understand that.
All right.
We got that. Long.
it's not personal,
No,
it's
I
business.
understand. I understand how it works. I
Okay,
get it.
That's a stamped signature even. That's not even his real signature. It's a stamp. Signature stamp to stamp it. Surprise, surprise. No. Mm-hmm.
We were just trying to be proactive with the gas prices.
Oh, it sounds great. Yeah,
right. But you're right.
Yeah.
It needs to be reviewed just like all the
and
other.
you know, with my past experience, I know about fuel surcharges.
Right. No.
And earning control is important.
Oh, absolutely.
But we also didn't want people.
And that's why
County having to pay
we're
extra
spending
money.
more money than he
I
wants,
like that they don't get,
than he's asking for.
you know. It wouldn't have been fair to the people, the other, the county that don't get to utilize that lake to pay the extra money.
Right.
So that's why we're where we're at.
Sure. We're all in favor of it. Don't worry. Just how it goes about.
That's all we got there. Just a couple quick updates. Unfortunately, we did not receive a grant under the MDHHS, which was that state, or I'm sorry, the state recruitment and retention. MDHS is the next one. So we were not one of the municipalities that was named to receive that grant. We'd submitted for roughly $100,000 under that for various things for recruitment and training. We weren't named as one of the recipients, so we got that results back.
we're on
Next one is the MDHHS. We did receive a grant award in the amount of $240,300. And that is, again, related to COVID-related expenses at the jail. So I've been in conversations with Tim and we kind of got an idea of how it works now, so we're gonna get that set up. Next step will be reimbursing costs from the jail. This grant will be reimbursed for COVID-related testing expenses, cleaning supplies, and that type of thing. So I'll be getting that up and running by the end of the week, and then we'll start moving forward. And it goes from a period of last October through this June 30th of 2022 with PCM the award. So costs that are even currently being are going to be part of that reimbursement thing, up to that $240,300. Now, we are also going to ask them, potentially, you're going to see in claims, obviously, Stanley Steamer came and completed their vent cleaning. Things went fairly well with that. No major issues. They got done with that, but we're going to explore maybe that might qualify for this grant.
I hope so.
I would think so.
We're going to make that effort and hopefully it will, and then we can move those funds somewhere else type of thing. So,
Absolutely.
I think that's it.
Thank you, gentlemen.
Yeah.
Action items. Fiscal year 2023 fee structure.
it's item 4A in the series of documents. There weren't a lot of requested adjustments that departments have submitted, but there are a couple significant ones. The first two are in the base fee for basements, either finished or unfinished. Brian has recommended a nickel increase per square foot on those. And on the re-roof permits, he is suggesting that be dropped to 0 because a couple of reasons. Number one, Brian says people aren't pulling that permit anyway, but number two, and probably more importantly, he believes under the building code that this is classified under owner maintenance. So it doesn't necessarily require a contractor that would have to come in and pull a permit. So he's recommending that $90 re-roof permit be eliminated in effect. The other changes are down in equalization concerning first the land division fee. And I know Ryan and Randy have both been in talking about that here in past meetings. He is asking for the substantial increase there in the mailing labels and then that tax database. I know he's been in here talking about that in association with the GIS. And then finally, down in the sheriff's office, some adjustments, preliminary breath tests from $5 to $10. The others down here for the live scan fingerprints are primarily clarification of the fees that we already charge. You might remember last year we broke out what the total fee was versus what the county's portion was. We didn't want to confuse people. And so these are a couple of the may have been missed or overlooked. The sports betting and gaming are obviously new, but the others are in effect reflecting what we're currently doing. So that's it. And if this is something you're agreeable to, I will put together the resolution and we will factor these into the budget process.
Resolution.
Good to go.
Ready to go.
One question, and so many of these are 1675. I mean, is this just a pass through to the state?
Yeah.
Statute.
Michelle.
We don't collect anything ourselves for it.
This is, I believe, our portion, if I'm not mistaken. The actual fee to do this is higher, but this is the county's.
Oh, so this is a fraction of.
But it's statutorily.
Okay.
So that would be the county's portion, and the way it was explained to me was like the 1675 that you bring up. It makes it a round number when you put the state's fee on there, so they don't have to keep a petty cash at the jail to create
Right.
change.
Right, that's what I was getting at.
Yeah.
Why are we at 75 cents, not just rounded 17? But if it is part of another charge, yeah, that makes sense.
All right.
Then it's just bookwork after that.
We got a resolution for that.
Yeah.
All right, next is Blue Cross Blue Shield Administrative Services Contract.
This is the contract that we have for health insurance for our inmates at the jail. Normally, you might say, well, let's bid this out, but there is only one carrier who is covering inmates at the jail. So this is it. So it is a contract, so it would require your approval.
This is just contract renewal. So.
Yeah.
I'm good.
Yep. So.
Good with that?
Next.
All right. We'll get that. All right, county properties.
What you have here is the list consolidated, if you will, from the rather impressive stack that Denise gave us of all the county properties that some of which you might recall we didn't realize we had. So this is that list shortened. I mean, just literally telling you where the library page is or document number. More importantly, though, I think for the board, we want to look at the acreage on some of these. And you can see some are rather substantial. The ones around the airport you would expect to see, but there are others that are very small. So let's give you a good idea, at least of where we are in terms of that dynamic. And then the sale price, which was included in the deeds that were provided, just kind of an information thing, but also gives you the idea of when the property was acquired.
Yeah.
What I will do is just incorporate this into our capital improvements plan, which will be part of our budget process as we move forward, which will then give us a one-stop shop. And I still have obviously all the files that Denise provided. So if we need to look any of these up for any level of detail, if somebody wanted to see the survey, we've got them on file. We can go to them relatively quickly, and I'm sure Denise can through your system as well, so that, we can always verify that. Now, the reason this is important, and I think this is what Jenny was getting at, is that we need to know not only where our properties are, but do we have any maintenance responsibilities on some of these properties? That High Banks thing is the one I think that caught many of us off guard, didn't even realize it was ours. And thankfully, Mills Township coordinated volunteers to go out and stain it and help with some of the upkeep. But that really is a responsibility of the county. So as we go through our budgeting and all of our analytical work, it's good to know where these properties are and have in mind any obligations that we might have to maintaining those properties.
As I think Chris actually mows a couple of spots off site
Yeah.
that are county properties as well.
Yeah, I think there was at least one in Ogemaw Township, maybe two.
Yeah.
Park,
The old
Park.
park. Yeah, he mows that.
And look,
Just
one
an
here.
FYI, at the Hilltop Park, there is a well there that is no longer being used. That you probably should look into.
Yeah.
I think we should probably,
I
take a
don't think
look
those
at
are even legal anymore.
keeping enough property for the antenna and selling the rest.
I don't think you can make one anymore.
Well, can't make one.
Those hand pumps they used to have.
Yeah, they still make them. But they're also old. I don't think it's.
Well, there's an antenna up there. There's a tower there. And there's no need for that park anymore. I mean, the south end of it is the lookout area that you could sit up and stand on top and see town. Well, they built the freeway in between and there's too many trees. You can't even see any.
Consumers Energy
Yeah.
Building
Yeah. I think
and E-Way.
we ought to cordon off, there's 4 acres. Take what we need for the tower and sell the rest. I mean, I don't even see a future for that park. I mean,
Tell you what.
that was the highway before I-75
Mhm.
and everybody would stop there, but I-75 made that road obsolete for,
It was
For
a
travel.
state roadside park and the
right.
state of Michigan then offered it to the county. And so
We took it so we could build a tower.
now the tower was the afterthought.
Yeah.
That was income generation.
Right.
So what are we doing here?
Nothing, it's just an information item that was asked.
Yeah.
At our town meeting.
But I wouldn't mind taking a look at that survey and seeing if there's some value selling that part of that property. I've talked to the Eagles Club across the street, would they like to adopt it before? We don't want to walk across the road. I don't blame them. It's on the hill. It's bad enough trying to pull out of there with a car.
We'll check it for deed restrictions too. It may be
It might be deeded back to the state,
or
maybe.
something, yeah.
Yeah, we should check that one out at least, yeah.
All right.
The rest of it there is,
Tell you what, make a beautiful home site. 2 acres.
Mhm. Security scanner.
I think that was one you asked to have on there.
The
Security scanner.
X-ray machine or the full body scanner at the jail or?
I don't know. So I tried to be.
is that on the agenda?
Yeah.
Oh, one on the new agenda here?
It's not on there. Mary actually added it at your request last week.
Okay. Well, my request, the X-ray machine.
Then it's the X-ray machine.
The X-ray machine. I think we should go ahead and get this thing. We've been hanging back and forth. I think we all agreed that we wanted to buy a new one instead of rebuilding that one. Let's get it. It's
If we
time.
got in our second round, it was been deposited.
We have not, and we are watching it like a hawk. So, latest word was, and there seems to be some confusion about what 1 year means. Apparently, it might mean 1 year and 1 month. So we'll just continue to monitor. We have, out of our own paranoia, checked, double checked, and triple checked all the account numbers, all of the different numbers associated with the county to make sure we have everything correct. And we do. So we're confident that at least our part is done. It's now just a matter of waiting for Washington to act.
Well,
Do we have money, uncommitted ARPA funds at this point in time to buy this thing? If we
Well,
say,
the reason it says I don't know is I don't know how much this is gonna cost. And what I would suggest we do is just go ahead and issue an RFP.
Let's
Let's
do
get
it.
the prices in.
Yeah.
By then, this second round should be here. And then you've got an idea of how much we're talking about and looking through the door and all that kind of
let's
stuff.
do that.
What, even if it's under even 100,000, we got 100,000 uncommitted.
Pretty confident to say that, yes,
And,
that's
and
true.
that security and that main entrance door was one of the higher priorities of the survey that we took amongst each other. Wasn't it?
Yes.
Are you gonna,
Yeah,
are you gonna go with just the security scanner or are you going with the whole? Because we were talking about buzzers at the doors and, you know,
Well, right now,
For right now, buy
right
an
now-
X-ray machine.
just the one machine.
my,
For right now.
Well, the rest of that stuff is not gonna be that expensive at all.
No,
But
but it needs to be done.
if we're gonna do it, I mean, that wouldn't hurt
It
to
all
do it
need-
all together.
It all needs to be done.
And also,
We need to do a separate RFP though for each one of
I'm
those.
Yeah.
envisioning two things. We've got the X-ray machine itself and then the RFP to deal with the doors and the
Security,
buzzers
yep.
and everything that goes
Right.
with it. Yeah.
also with the buzzers and doors, they need something down there. In front of their desk. Or
Just a laptop.
something to get behind.
Barrier, yeah.
a
Yeah, barrier.
Because that door is obviously not the answer and
No.
they don't have anything else to protect them, so. They gotta have something put in place to protect them from anybody coming in that door.
Yeah, I was talking to Jim this morning. He's got a great big old chair sitting there and he says he really likes that. So. He'd much prefer a wall.
Yeah. Yeah, even if it's, just a 6x8 or something, just something to protect them.
Well, sure, if a lion comes in,
I don't know, a week ago, I was just, we're not using the X-ray machine that's there. We're not using it. I mean, the last 10 times I've been in, my stuff didn't go through it.
It's on.
Okay, well, we came through this morning, my case didn't go through, so we're not using it.
No, he walked around and wanded you and, or looked things over and
Well, it's just looking at the news anymore. We need it. We need this thing. We need the machine that works.
right. But I think they understand that once you get a new machine, everything goes through it.
Like,
And my suggestion to him this morning, talking to Jim, was the guy that works up in the court, because it gets busy. These ladies are coming through, or gentlemen are coming through in the morning and there's a big crowd. If they have to pass everything through that, maybe the court guy, because he doesn't start till 9 o'clock. These ladies and stuff are coming in at 8:30.
Yeah.
That guy needs to come down and two of them work together until you get the crowd through. And it only makes sense.
That's up.
But that's up to them.
That's up to them.
that's-
I'm not saying that. I've been to the airports. They're busy all the time,
Sure.
24/7. I mean,
Yeah,
the thing is,
got 10 people there.
huh?
They got 10 people at the airports at least.
Well, if we had that many people, we'd have 10 people here, but we don't. But the thing is I just, we need it. I mean, and now it's a hospital they're talking about. We need it. And we've talked about it. And I just called Tim and I says, please put it on the agenda because I'm done talking about it.
Get it done.
Okay?
so we'll go ahead and get the
RFP.
RFP
Get an
together.
RFP together.
We're
Let's
back.
get this thing.
All right, next on the agenda is magistrate appointment.
Call this a belt and suspenders resolution. We did pass a budget that had a list of the allocated positions throughout the organization, which included magistrates. However, Judge Bennett was rereading the statute that specifically says the Board of Commissioners has to name the magistrates. And while we're confident between the two of us that the appropriations resolution did that, we would be even more confident if there was a separate resolution that they could point to that says magistrates on it. So that's why it's in front of you. It does not change anything in terms of staffing levels. It just, again, reiterates what was done back in September.
Because I thought we already approved both of those people to be magistrates. Just resolution, just do it.
Yeah.
It's, I think redundant. I think the judge would agree that it's redundant, but he would feel more at ease if he had that in front of him.
Next. All right, audit.
Okay, this is probably the most difficult item on the agenda today. I did send you an email last week on a follow-up on a conversation that we had with the auditors with some concerns that we brought to their attention. At the conclusion of that meeting, I think we were all in agreement that a different team coming in would be best or most preferred. Now, I'll tell you that in the industry, if you will, auditors have an industry, but typically you will find among the various organizations with accountants are recommending that auditor teams turn over at least once every 5 or 10 years. Our current audit team has been here at least 25. We know that. There have been personnel changes in and out, but particularly for about the last 15, it's been consistently the same personnel. In meeting with the auditors, we did express the concerns that we had. They acknowledged some of those concerns. Looking at the contract that we currently have in place that was signed early in 2020, it is missing some common components. First, there is no process to resolve grievances that we might have, and there's no process if one party or the other wishes to discontinue the agreement. The contractor, the vendor, does not wish to discontinue. And I got word of that late yesterday afternoon. So what that puts us in is a bit of a quandary. As I see it, we have 3 options to go forward. And let me just say this too, as awkward as the conversation is, I really believe that it would be a disservice for me not to bring these concerns to your attention. It's, I think, incumbent upon, in my role as your chief administrative officer, to look at these contracts and make sure that we're getting what we say we're paying for. In this case, there are definitely some things that have raised concern. And I just wanted the conversation of these 3 options. The first option is probably the easiest, and that's that we do nothing and we continue on. That would be of concern, but we would, if that was the board's wish, just continue as is, that we would continue to do that for the duration of the current agreement, which I believe goes through 2024. Second option would be that the current vendor changes the personnel so that people coming in to look at our audit for the current fiscal year would be fresh eyes and have that fresh perspective to look at it, but it's still under the umbrella of the current agreement. Third option, and probably the most perilous for the county, would be for the board to actually terminate the contract, put out a bid for a new auditor. And where this is perilous is it's kind of uncharted territory when we have a contract that has no language to tell us how to proceed with something like that. So probably would get bumpy. At a minimum, I would strongly urge that we get a letter of engagement from the team, get it from the firm now that tells us who will be doing our audit for next year, and allow you to approve that engagement letter. At a minimum. That's not totally clean because this isn't a particularly large firm. It's more likely than not, I think, that we'll have some of the same personnel involved in the audit, but at least we would have shaken some of the things up and hopefully get some of the other concerns that we have addressed, which I'm confident we will, because we've drawn the attention to the team to the concerns that we have. So that's where we are. And I would say at a minimum, I would request that because we need to get moving, believe it or not, already on preparing for that next audit. If we're going to change firms, we will have to issue the RFP and go through that process. And we're probably looking at August before we have a definitive idea of who we're working with. We're really cutting it close because the fiscal year ends in September and the processes get underway for doing the audit. So that's where we are. I kind of apologize in advance for bringing this to you. It's kind of a heavy thing, but it is something that I feel very strongly that we need to have addressed so that as we're moving forward, we know what ground we're on.
How much money we spend last year?
Off the top of my head, I don't know. I want to say it's in the neighborhood of 35,000.
For our audit
For the audit.
altogether, no, it's higher than that. Because there were additional charges.
Right, I don't know what it is. There is a number.
Figure for you,
But we spent another $40,000 for that other
70.
70,000.
We're now up to
$70,000.
$70,000 for the external auditor to fix the problems that existed from the previous administration that was allowed to continue year after year.
Now, what problems did they fix? Because the way I understood it, they created problems too.
I now have a balanced checkbook, which in June you
Balanced how? Did you find the missing money?
$39,000 was written off, which is different than the 71 or 72,000 that the other firm told you at September 30th. So yes, that did include a write-off, but comparing the write-off to continued expense, Tim and I discussed it and we decided that $39,000 was an acceptable write-off to have a clean slate and move forward with a balanced checkbook at this point.
I was thinking previously that we had discussed this and we had agreed to have them change personnel and not the same auditors that we've had. I thought that was discussed not too long ago.
Actually, last
You
month.
threw that out to them. Tim, did they get back with you? Are they?
That they
acceptable?
did. It was acceptable, although again, some of the names that they've listed were the same. So assuming that option is still open, well, that's why I want the letter of engagement. It's going to tell
Right.
you who will be working on the audit. And again, not the optimum solution, but definitely one that's acceptable. I think a step in the right direction. We continue to do what we do in terms of monitoring that work to make sure that all the components are there. But probably the path of least resistance that still gets us some change.
Because I think with the time constraint that we're looking at, I think that's the only viable option.
I think when,
Option one to me is, no, we can't, status quo is no good. I think option two, mix of personnel is the only reasonable one that we've got, given where we are in time right now. If we want to look, maybe at dissolving the contract next year, then we can look at it, but I think.
So what are the actual grievances that you have?
I'd really like to avoid getting into the details, but I'm prepared to if you want to.
Well, I don't know what we're talking about as far as changing auditors unless we can understand, because, I mean, what do you?
I've got an understanding. I have a very good understanding of what's been going on, so
So
I think I do. I haven't gotten real deep in the weeds, but
So,
Tim and
so
I have a list.
you have
You
a,
wanna hear it?
okay, I'm talking to the board right now. You have an understanding of what you're not happy with? Okay,
I do.
and do you have an understanding of what you're not happy with?
Some of the things, yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
And you?
well, bottom line, past practices and haven't helped the situation, I don't believe. And of course, Karen's trying to rectify all this, and we need to do our best to help rectify it.
So,
But I also believe the contract that we have, of course, there's things missing and whatnot. If I remember right, and of course, we're looking at dollars too, and not saying that should play into it. I think that contract, I don't think there was any raise in fees.
I think that was the big selling point.
I think that was a big selling point that everything was just gonna hold
Yeah.
while we finish this contract out.
well, we're not finished with it yet. We're still.
Well, I understand that.
I'm not in agreement of changing, the contract at all. I guess I'd be open to maybe, changing up the personnel a little bit, but I don't think it's right for us to, jump out of a contract in the middle of it.
Well, I don't think we're discussing that, Brad. I think we're all in agreement that at least if somebody wants to look at jumping on a contract later on down the road, we can address it then. I think for right now, it is, let's do option two, which is requesting some personnel change and a letter of engagement naming those people.
So what is, I think it would only be fair to, talk about that stuff and the reasons why we want a personnel change, because I really,
The firm's
I'm
aware
not
of it.
understanding any of this.
The concerns have been addressed by Tim and Karen to the firm. They're aware of it. I don't think that we really need to,
And they've agreed to change up personnel.
right, I don't think that we really need to be airing this out.
I don't see a reason why we shouldn't air it out. Because, I mean, if we're talking about something legitimate and substantial, then we should be transparent about it. If this is just people not getting along, then that's not a viable option.
It's not that at all.
Not that at all, Brad. I've worked with this firm for 24 years. It is not a personality conflict whatsoever. 24 years I've worked with this firm, so it's not personalities. There are legitimate issues with past practice that has been occurring as a lack of best practice under government acceptable accounting practices. Admitted in a meeting that we were not being held to the best practice standard, and past administration in the treasurer's office was allowed to continue year after year without it being reported to our board of commissioners that we weren't operating with best practice. And there are several things. Tim and I have a list.
Well, I would love to see it,
You want to hear it?
because I haven't heard
Today?
anything about,
You want me to go into a
the
list of
actual,
things that I found just in the year and a half that I've been here?
absolutely.
Okay, Tim, do you want me to fire away, or do you want to take the lead, or?
Feel free. You've got, you're in the weeds with this. I mean, even more than I am.
All right, let
so,
me get my waders on.
Yeah.
So for starters,
Yeah, why don't you come on up here?
in the meeting on the Monday that we held with the accounting firm, myself, Tim, and Breck met with one of the principals, Bob Moran, and the auditor, Cindy Scott, to discuss new options because we weren't satisfied with service. The biggest lead on that was the county being allowed to operate with negative cash on our books. She admitted in that meeting that she reported it in 2009, 2010, and 2011, and then never reported it again after that. Admitted that it is not best practice for counties to operate with negative cash, which still exists on our books today, and I continue to work with Maynard Custarian to resolve those issues because no business should be operating with negative cash on their books. That is my biggest issue. My next issue was revolving funds. You should only have on your books the current tax years you're collecting that are in the foreclosure and forfeiture process. When I took office, there were tax funds open on our books all the way back to 2011. It is best practice to close each year. After that 3-year process is complete, that year is then closed and rolled into your revolving fund. It hadn't happened for a decade and it was allowed to continue on our books. Due tos and due froms, which is a normal process of your audit to book due this fund to this fund. However, it was never addressed the following year to clear those due tos and due froms off the books. It was year upon year upon year upon year of things being booked and just left unresolved. So I've worked with Maynard Custarian to clean those up, to clean up the revolving funds, to have a balanced checkbook that for a decade we haven't had. One of the things that I want to point out is that when she came up to the podium to present the audit, as she walked up to the podium, she informed you she'd already submitted your audit to the state before she even presented it to you. That's a big no-no. Really you should hear the statistics about your audit before it goes to the state of Michigan. Another item that I noticed in the journal entries, you had passed a motion to resolve a budget deficit by transferring funds from the revolving fund to balance your budget. In the journal entries that were given to my office to process, she chose a different fund, tax reversion fund, non-compliance to the motion that you had passed. She picked a different fund. And I said, well, why are you doing that? That's not what the board passed. And her response was, well, because that fund had negative cash. So I'm going to grab it from a fund that has money. That's not what your motion stated. She should have been following the motion that you created and passed and said you were going to use to resolve the budget deficit. You don't get to just pick and choose what fund you're going to grab money from. the journal entries on the negative cash, as soon as I took office and had a copy of the draft audit, beelined to Tim's office to say, I want another audit done. This audit is not transparent to the public of what's really happening in this county. You don't provide a treasurer's office with journal entries that tells you to post entries to clean up negative cash so that your audit is acceptable to the state of Michigan, and then tell you to reverse those entries on October 1, which means that your audit is basically just a facade to be acceptable to the state of Michigan and not transparent of what's really happening here in Ogemaw County and what has happened in this county for at least a decade. So I had asked Tim, I think we need a whole new audit. This is not good. This isn't telling the state or the constituents in this county what is really going on with our books. Unfortunately, it was too late to have an audit redone and meet the guidance, timelines, and compliance for reporting to the state of Michigan. But that audit is not transparent to our county residents of what's really been happening on these
Or this
books.
board.
Or the board. The Board of Commissioners had no idea.
The board for 10 years.
For a decade.
Over.
For a decade, you did not know how these books really work. And you heard me be vocal when I first took office in several meetings saying, these books are bad. We have a huge problem. There's negative cash. There's due tos and due froms that aren't being addressed. I was very, very vocal about that a year ago. And I am still vocal about it today. I have continuous conversations with Tim about my dissatisfaction. So if you are going to choose to stay with this firm, again, it is not a personality issue. I've worked with them without any issues for 24 years. It's not personalities. I want an accounting firm that is going to hold this county to the highest level of performance, to the best practice acceptable under accounting. It's not best practice, but we let you do it. Or give me journal entries to hide things and not be transparent to the state or to the residents of this county. It's not acceptable to me. So if you're going to stay with that firm, it has to be an entirely new team, not somebody working from an office behind the scenes with the person that was her right-hand man being on site, but working with her, and we end up with the same results. That's not fair to this board. It is not fair to the residents of this county.
Regarding the cost of the contract, says our base number is $35,910 per year. That won't exceed that. But in addition to that, there are charges for single audit. In the case of when this was put together, the transit was the one that tripped us into the single audit. Since then, last year we had to do it because of the ARPA money that had come in. The rules from Treasury changed since then, so the ARPA will no longer count to require the single audit. But be that as it may, that's just an additional cost that would be tacked on and in accordance with the agreement.
Well, let me say something before we get another step farther. I don't agree with Mark to the point that I want another team in. I think what we need to do is take a look at the ramifications. If it costs, the reason I ask how much it costs, if it costs $35,000, $40,000, there's 3 years left in the contract, then I'm potentially looking at a lawsuit for $120,000. Okay. Because they're going to sue us for what it's going to be, whatever we pay this year times three more years, 22, 23, and 24. So I'm looking at a potential lawsuit of $120,000. Option 4, though, if legal, can we just have a second audit done by another auditor? Is that legal?
I think
in 1 year,
audits done as you want.
right?
Which one gets
So option 4 would be stay with them and hire another company for another $35,000 or $40,000, which I don't like, and I'm not saying that. But do I pay it out in a lawsuit or do I pay for an audit? I don't know.
Well, I guess my question would be, has the state of Michigan ever audited this firm? And was Ogemaw County part of that audit?
They do go through what's called a peer review, and they're required to do that, I think every 3 years. I may be mistaken on that. That was mentioned in our meeting with the auditors, and they said their peer review report was acceptable. I don't want to say glowing or whatever the normal is or a result. They didn't have any finding per se. Now, were these things specifically addressed in that peer review? I don't know, but that would be like the audit itself. Does the auditor go through every single invoice that the county's received over the year? No, they take a sampling. And I suspect the peer review would be the same thing. They take a sampling of the work and make their decision based on that sample.
Well, wouldn't you think that if they're truly auditing us, they would be looking at these journal entries that are pretty substantial?
Those are
Those are the journal entries
of
created by
audit.
the auditor.
Wouldn't you think that the state would be reviewing that?
I
I
don't.
mean,
know if
that's
the
not
state
just a
looks-
little line item.
The-
That's a
the
pretty.
state- The state would not see that. The
Yeah.
state would see the September 30th audit that says everything is balanced.
That bound copy
That's
that
what they
you
see.
see is what they
What
see.
you see is the before and the after. What you see is before the audit is submitted and then what happened after the audit was submitted, literally the next day.
They reversed everything, Brad.
Yeah, I get
They
that.
made it, and then
But-
the next day reversed it all. The only thing that we saw in the state site was September 30th. That's October 1st when everything was.
So you're saying
Turn
that
back
this didn't
around.
happen the year before that?
For a decade, that's
Okay,
been
so that's my
happening.
point.
A decade.
Why didn't they see the before and after
Because
when they're
the
auditing the
the
whole
state
year?
doesn't look at the journal entries. The state of Michigan doesn't look
State
at
of
that
Michigan doesn't see
document.
that.
They're looking at the audit that's
They're
submitted.
looking at
It's the state of Michigan and they go to the auditors. That auditor might have 150, 200 companies, whatever that they work for. And again, they're taking a sampling.
They're just looking at September 30th each year.
Yes.
That's all they see. It's each year. They don't see October 1st of that
So the
year.
state of
They
Michigan,
don't
that's all
see-
they look at when they.
They're not
That's-
looking at
that's all
those.
they
That's all,
see.
that's all,
That's all.
when we get an audit report, that's all we're seeing is September 30th. We don't see September 29th or October 1st. When they present the audit to us, we're only seeing one day out of the entire year.
Mhm.
Where we stood on September 30th, not where we were on September 29th or where we were on October 1st.
When she told you that she let the commissioners know in 2009 and not since
2011.
2011.
2011.
Yeah,
9, 10, and
that was-
11, 3 years in a row, and then
2011.
was the last time that
And that was the last time she told any of the commissioners that they'd done this with the books, with the negative cash. What was the question to her? Is there any commissioners still there on the board?
Yeah, we had that conversation.
Yeah.
And of course.
There isn't.
No.
So how would any of us sitting right here now know? I've been here 5 years. I haven't heard that one time. And in previous years, I gotta tell you, I sat right in their office and I asked the question, what's glowing here? What's anything at all? Is there anything that should come out as a surprise or anything? And then this,
Conversation with commissioners in their office.
yeah, well, I didn't hear it. I had a conversation, yes. Thing it. I mean, when they tell us what they're gonna do pre-audit every year is we follow the general accepted principles, accounting principles. We hear it every time, GAAP. And didn't you ask her if this was in a general accepted principle?
I had it on my list to ask, but before that happened, she answered it herself.
She told you herself it is
Said
not.
It's exact words, but words
Not
to the
best
effect of
practice.
it's not best practice, not gap.
And that the firm agreed with you that accepted 5 to 10 year. They recommend, they almost basically agreed that that's industry standard.
That's a fact. I mean, I've already checked on that within the organizations, but to be fair, one of the responses we heard was when you have an auditor that's familiar with your books, it's more efficient.
Yeah.
Okay, yes, but that also begs the familiarity question. Things begin to be overlooked. There's a lot of reasons why you would make a change like I would always say every 6 years because they're typically 3-year cycles. But that's why you get the fresh eyes so that you have that fresh look, you have the objectivity. You don't have, well, I've seen this before and push it aside.
The Maynard Kosterman thing, we did not bring them people in as a result of our audit. We brought those, correct me if I'm wrong, we brought them in because of the recommendations from the Department of Treasury about our fund balance.
Well, no,
Is that-
that was
that started it.
a conversation, but recall they were hired to do analysis of our internal controls.
Controls.
So that gets to, you know, how does money make it from the window where
Right.
you paid it to the
But
treasury?
it was not a result of our audit that we brought those people in.
Ultimately, because we did have, I'll just call it entanglement, if you will. We couldn't figure out how the bottom line was established, and there were gaps in there.
Right.
So they came in, they helped with the, as Karen had mentioned before, with the bank reconciliations, which is huge. You don't know what you got in the bank, how do you know what you have to spend, okay?
Right.
So that's been addressed. The other issue with the negative cash, I believe you're still working on some of that. The issue with the prior delinquent tax years has been addressed now.
All cleaned up.
But as we got into this, we start seeing some of these things. Karen was able to utilize some of the funds that she controls, bring them in to help clean some of that up so that we could make heads or tails of it. So no, did the auditor do that? No, that was done here.
Yeah.
But it didn't get mentioned in the audit.
Well, it was just in conversation, something was said that we had another audit firm come in and do our audit. We didn't have that other firm come in and
They
do
did
an
not
audit.
come in and do an audit.
No, they came in to answer other questions and they're here for a whole nother thing. Now, things that arise out of what they found, but they were not brought here to do an audit. I don't want the public thinking we're spending two different.
What they came in here to do was
Audit.
help us sort out
Right.
the stacks, if you will, and put order to it so that we knew the numbers we were looking at.
Some of that,
We knew how it got to that.
some of that originated from the Department of Treasury's report to us a couple years ago that we didn't do anything with. They came here personally, and of course, all the commissioners were not allowed to talk with them. Only Bruce talked to them, as far as commissioners went. You were here for that during that time.
Oh, yeah, I know.
And then it was, oh, don't worry, we got it auditors already. We don't have to worry about anything and we don't do anything. You know, and then we hired an administrator and things started changing. I don't mind saying it publicly, it started changing. And some people decided that retirement was a good time to go. Now we're finding out all kinds of things, aren't we? Contracts written by people that can't write contracts, you know?
Aren't authorized.
Authorized. Well, that's what it is. It's not their job. I mean, and we're finding out all kinds of things. You know, this zeroing out at on one day and then, geez, if I could do that with my banker, I'd have a credit rating of 2,000 if I could do that. Every time I applied for a loan, if I could say I don't owe a damn penny today and then put all my debt back on tomorrow, but only take the reading off today, not tomorrow. That's exactly what's been happening
For a decade.
for a decade. They came to us, they showed us that here's your audit. You guys are in great shape. You don't owe no money, no negative. Tomorrow, oh, sorry, hey, all that negative came back. That's general,
But
that's
you don't- but you don't-
accepted
but
principle.
We didn't get to see it. We only saw the good. We didn't see the bad.
So what you're saying is either we or they did something illegal?
I'm not saying it's illegal.
illegal.
It is not best practice.
So explain to me why is it not best practice?
Well, I don't have a CPA degree, but this is my take on it. Is it acceptable to book a liability for a negative cash situation under the government accounting acceptable practices? Yes, it's acceptable. Is it the way a county should be performing as a most efficient and transparent and accurate? No. That is my description of best practice. If you are performing best practice, then you are dotting i's, crossing t's, presenting transparency as close to accurate as you can be. And this county was allowed to not operate that way for a decade. And not only operate that way, it was never even being reported or brought to anyone's knowledge. And I feel like I haven't even found everything yet. I've only been in office for a year and a half. And I guarantee you, the minute I started seeing things, and Tim will agree with me, I was down there every day saying, here's this, here's this, here's this, here's this, here's this. The previous administration for the treasurer's office was not doing their job, not to the best of their ability by far. And we had an audit team allowing that to continue and not being reported to you. And there's your evidence to post something on September 30th so it looks nice and pretty to the state, and then reverse it on October 1 and continue to practice at less than best. That's not acceptable to me. That's not the office I want to have.
So you're saying that Stevenson is the reason why these accounts were negative and then went positive? They did it
You're looking at the
themselves.
document that shows you, that's right from their firm that says, post these September 30th to clean up negative cash and reverse it on October 1. That's right from their firm to allow the county to operate with negative cash and perform at less than best practice.
So it wasn't something that we created and then they fixed.
Yes, it was created under previous administration of the treasurer's office.
Yep.
They were not operating at an efficient level. And an audit firm that said, okay, we'll clean it up for September 30th, because that's what the state looks at.
When you say clean it up,
Mhm.
are you saying, are you
Journal
saying
entries to correct the problem.
correct it? Yes.
And then reverse it on October 1 to allow the previous treasurer's administration to continue to operate in a way that is not best for this county for a decade.
Now, is Stevenson the one that reversed it, or did
Those
that
entries,
office reverse it?
those entries are provided by the auditor to the treasurer's office to post for the books to match what's being reported to the state of Michigan.
My question is, did we reverse it or did they reverse it?
Only we can reverse entries on our books.
Okay. So Stevenson didn't reverse it, we did.
We were instructed to
They're
at
aware
their
of it.
direction.
And do we have proof of that?
Yes, it's
You guys-
literally right.
This is a report, Karen. This is,
That's the journal entry.
That's
That
what
is the
happened.
journal entry provided
Okay,
to the
it's a
treasurer.
journal entry. Does it say that they gave us permission?
They don't have to give you permission. That's their instruction to the treasurer of what to book on our general ledger
At the end of the year?
and to reverse on October 1. And treasurers are to
Said they did
follow auditor recommendations. If they are giving entries by an auditor, you are to post them to match the books that are being reported. You don't get a choice. You don't get to say, oh, nope, I'm not posting those entries. You have to post what your auditor gives you.
That was past practice, not best practice.
It can't be shifted to the treasurer. He did as he was instructed.
But this is obviously not happening now.
Yes, it is at this time, because right now we still have negative cash. And if you're reporting to the state that we don't, then that has to be until we get that negative cash corrected, which I am working to resolve a decade of bad, less than best practice work that was allowed. Mhm.
That's the remaining work that Karen is working with Maynard. So that by the time we get to the end of this fiscal year, hopefully we have all that resolved.
Yes.
We can start fresh at
So Maynard is in the works fixing this?
Well, as soon as we have a laptop available for them to have a VPN connection with us, we will begin that work on the negative cash. We just completed the bank recs. So it took a full year to get our checkbook balanced with professional help. So I can't say that by September 30th, the negative cash is going to be off the books, because we have a decade of work to go through to figure out how did we get to this point and how do we fix it? It's not going to happen overnight. So I can't sit here today and say by September 30th, Negative cash will be off the books. Cleaned up a lot of it, but when you have a $3 million to $4 million negative cash for general fund, it's gonna take some work to figure that out and get it corrected.
Well, don't you think it would be a good idea to bring Stevenson in and discuss this?
That's what we did.
I
last
mean
Monday.
with the commissioners involved,
If
so that
you
we,
would like, certainly we will follow up on that. Yeah.
as I didn't even know that there was even a meeting happening with you guys.
Not typically a meeting that you would be noticed on. It's incumbent on us at the staff level to get our minds around what the issue is. Meeting with the audit team was twofold. Number one, to express our concerns. Number two, hopefully come to an agreement as to how we are going to move forward, which is why we're here. So yeah, that's staff level work. We brought the issue now to you, and here we are. So if you want the audit firm to come in, we will certainly make that invitation, make that happen.
And these aren't just my concerns. They're concerns of Tim as well. And he repeatedly used the word alarming in our meeting. The things that I brought to him are alarming, that a county can operate this way, and yet there be no transparency and on any level, not with you, not with the state, not with our constituents. Alarming.
Well, I would definitely like to hear their side of it too, just to get everything out in the open and transparent.
Sure.
And hopefully we can move forward. And I'm obviously not going to be here for the next contract, but if that's the determination of the board at that point to do that, so be it. But I think we need to try to work with this company and make things right. Do you not think that that's in a
The
possibility?
only way it's going to be an acceptable plan for me is if it's an entirely new team of all fresh eyes. No one who has worked on this audit in the past who have allowed this to happen should be allowed to work on our audit in this next year. That's my stand.
I don't want my name on something.
We have documents from our offices. Oh, I didn't even mention that. She created fake letterhead for both my office and Breck's office, 2 elected official offices, and created letterhead and put wording on it and put it in the draft audit without even discussing it with us. That's probably a big no-no. That's probably a big no-no, creating false elected official letterhead and putting it in an audit. Probably not a good thing to do. So we both talked to her and said, that's not our letterhead. You don't just create letterhead for an elected official. This is our letterhead, and these are the words that we will be using on our own letterhead, not something that you just created for us.
And did you report that to anybody?
Yes, directly to the auditor, Cindy Scott. Breck, I'm sure you have,
I mean, to the board.
Tim was aware of it.
And it was corrected.
It was corrected and resolved with apologies from the auditor herself, saying, oh, I'm so sorry.
This was past practice.
It's what I've done in the past, so I just assumed it was okay to do it for you too.
We made it very clear that we are not the past. And we will put our name on something that we do.
So
Do you
no,
have copies of that stuff,
copies of what?
that letterhead, those documents you're talking about?
I have it in my email.
I had verbal conversations with her, not by email. Breck, I think yours is by email with her.
I'm
That-
talking about the actual documents that you're talking about. You have copies of those?
It was in a draft audit. I would have to look to see if I saved it. I don't know that I saved the original draft that had fake letterhead in it.
You can look.
Do you think you
I-
saved the draft from that? I probably didn't save the draft because why keep a draft when you have, once your official documents provided, drafts aren't usually kept. So
If someone made up a fake letterhead, I think I would have kept it. If it bothered you that much. Wouldn't you think?
What?
Wouldn't you think that you would keep something like that? If it
That's why
bothered you
I'm
that
pretty
much?
sure I still have it. I will look.
Breck, were you not upset by that?
I was extremely upset. We had, the audit team knew I was very upset. Yes.
Some more discussion?
What I would suggest, if you want to meet with the auditors on the 16th, we invite them in. Continue the conversation.
Okay with
Yeah,
that?
absolutely.
Thank you.
I have documented documents of all of this. Not sure I saved the draft of my fake letterhead, Breck might have, but this is not acceptable. We need to be performing at the best practice that we can.
All right, next is team building. Isn't that great?
All timing.
That bridge building or bridge demolition?
Yeah. Can hear the bus.
Mark, if you have anything else on the team building.
Well,
Was
Mary sent out questionnaires to the various offices. Sounded like, pretty positive feedback from everybody. Employee wise, it sounds like the majority of them really prefer that they have their families involved, which is fine. When I brought it up, I just threw it out as an option. Whether employees want to take and, open it up to their families or not. There was only one that was a negative. They said that we have too many potlucks as it is. But otherwise, all the other responses were all positive. Everybody thought it was a good idea, and I still think that it is if the boards, if they thought Orange Park would be a good location for it. Again, I think it'd be a good thing for the employees. We can't do a whole lot for them monetarily. And I think I brought this up before, way back when, in my former life, the commissioners used county funds, they bought turkeys at Thanksgiving time. But come find out you can't do that, So this is just a way I think that we can show our appreciation to our employees. Something that we can do for them is give them, a couple hours off of work, and we can have, everybody, bring in food, do a cookout at Irons Park and have some activities.
So
It's just
we could probably do like potluck or something like that.
That's what was proposed, just, maybe we provide burgers and hot dogs or something, but as far as.
yeah, as we as commissioners want to kick in, $20-30 a pop or whatever and get, hot dogs and hamburgers and,
Oh, that sounds like a good idea.
Well, when we did that Christmas dinner, I thought that was a good thing. I thought it was great, We did the same thing, just did it here. Yeah, I don't see any problem with it at all.
Need to coordinate with the courts and make sure that.
Yeah, well,
That's the one negative I think that we got was from the courts because of scheduling conflicts possibly. So
Do it on June.
if we can figure something out, but.
You're gonna have that regardless, because you're not gonna get total. You got corrections people that are working, you got law enforcement that's.
Right, and I know you got,
Transit.
you got
That's working.
you got the redheaded stepchildren, and then you've got the other redheaded stepchildren on transit, and it's unfortunately, that's the way it is.
And somebody will be on vacation.
True.
Doesn't matter. They'll be out of town, you just can't catch it any day that everybody's here.
Yeah, you're not gonna be able to catch everybody, and that's fact of life, so.
No, but maybe there's a possibility of a off-court day, just so we can try to get as many people as possible.
Well, we said,
The jail can go.
we said
either.
if it's the last 2 hours in the workday, then they're committed to go because they're working. So we're gonna catch, if we do that, then they're there. The ones that can leave their post are there. Now, I don't know the issue with courts. I saw the survey. I don't know what the issue is. I mean, I was telling Mark a few years ago, we were throwing around the idea about closing on Fridays to save heat in the building. And they just couldn't do it. 3 days off the courts, couldn't do it. But Thanksgiving came along and we got 4 days off. And then we ended up, somehow the pilgrims got by, And now it's another 3-day weekend they're talking, the state is giving the courts. Holy smokes. can't do it for one thing, but you can do it for another. I don't know. I guess that's the blind part of justice, right?
Well, that sounds like a good idea. In the late afternoon might actually be a really good
Yeah,
idea.
and I think Mary's idea of doing it in the middle of the week's not a bad idea either, doing it like on a Wednesday, instead of doing a Friday, because somebody may take off, they may have a 3-day weekend, want to take a 4-day. Because they got the following Monday off because it's Juneteenth, which is going to be June 20th this year, because it falls on a Monday. So somebody might take that Friday off before. So I think doing it in the middle of the week, would be a good idea.
Good idea.
Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday kind of thing.
Elected officials and try to coordinate something.
Yeah, what I'll do is Mary's really been taking the lead on this and she can work with Mark and figure out a date and just make it happen. It doesn't take any board action to do this. It's all on us. But the idea is to make sure everybody's at least aware and has input on what day is going to work best.
Sounds good. All right. Next on the agenda is time cards.
Or the lack thereof. Because there's no punching in.
Well,
Time and attendance.
I kind of bring this up on the 2nd of the month, that you just started the next phase yesterday. So I guess this phase started though.
Well, it started, and Paul can attest to sitting through 12 hours worth of not only doing our payroll, but going through or listening to the conversation with the vendor about how the formulas are working and what's matching up and what isn't. So actually got to see that sausage being made, but right now, yes, still on schedule. I would not be surprised if we move the 100% implementation date back 1 pay period. So instead of June 15th, whatever 2 weeks later is the end of the month.
Yeah.
Anyway, there were just some nuances. There was one step I know that Tracy shared with me that just logically doesn't make sense. It takes 2 steps to do something that should only happen in 1. So they're working with programmers to figure out where that disconnect is. Still moving along though. And again, as we bring a new group in, I've got a whole new group of people who've never done this before. So there may be some operator error that we have to get to and so on, but it's moving along. And the group that was initially done, the good news is they did their BSNA transfer and it happened. So yay. So that's exactly what they sold us on. So it's a good thing. But now I think it gets easier, but every time I say that, something crops up and Tracy will not like hearing me say that. So
yeah,
it's on schedule.
Yeah. Okay. All right. I know you brought it up in the regular meeting a couple weeks ago, but in your report, but I just wanted to committee the whole talk about. But being the 2nd of the month, it's really kind of early yet in the month, so I'll probably bring it up in 2 weeks.
I can tell you, Tracy has spent way more time than she should be on this.
Yeah, but when it's all getting going, she'll spend a lot
3
less
months?
time on everything.
Too much time?
Yeah.
We were supposed to have this on board, I think by March, but it's still June and
I think it was June 15th, I think was always like the date that was supposed to be the 100% implemented. But that's one that's going to get pushed back to more like the 30th of June. But
It'd be 100% then? I thought we had one more phase to go.
That is the court phase, which was supposed to be wrapped up by the 15th. So that's schedule I just saw. So I haven't seen anything since July yet. That's what will trigger me.
Transit, they're on board with this?
Transit was
Now?
the first group.
Right. Okay. All right.
We have a meeting set Monday with the developer to help with the sheriff's office and jail, clean up some stuff, get on the same page. So hopefully after that meeting and more education and training with the employees.
Part of that is to make sure the right code gets entered in at the employee stage so that the right account gets charged for the wage. So if it's Marine versus ORV, that distinction has to be made. And that's part of the sorting out. And we knew that was going to be a hurdle, but it's going to work.
Okay.
All right. So the next one is closed session, but think we'll do public comment first, and then we won't have any business after that. So this public comment can be for anything. Any public comment whatsoever, under 3 minutes. We have any public comment in the room? Any public comment on Zoom? Any public comment? All right, so do I have a motion to go into closed session?
This would be a closed session to discuss strategy and negotiation connected with collective bargaining under MCL 15.268C.
I would make that motion.
Or
I did.
Correct, or wrong? Yeah, well, as soon as we vote on it,
short.
so all in, do we need to?
Need roll call.
Need a roll call.
Yeah, roll call vote, please.
Mark Serbrook.
Yes.
Brandon Becker.
Yes.
Ron Vaughn.
Yes.
Rick Scott.
Yes.
You can. Well,
I want Karen in here too. I want Karen.
I want to take a quick break.
Yeah.
I gotta go.
We gonna pee?
Yep, I do.
We are taking a quick
And we gotta,
Yes.
this is taking too long. I gotta run.
it's really quick.
All right, do I have a motion to come back into closed session or open session?
So moved. Support.
All in favor?
Aye.
And
Motion to adjourn.
motion to adjourn?
Second.
Second? Motion adjourned.
Thank you. Everybody.
You're gonna see it again on the